Welcome to this special event, the Young CEOs Brunch meeting and launch of the Finscope 2024 Youth Thematic Report. It is organized by the Ministry of Youth and Arts in partnership with Access to Finance Rwanda and Akazi Kanoze Access. But before we dive into today's discussion, I want us to just start off by engaging with one another. I know most of us here in this room know each other. So start by introducing yourself to the person next to you. Share with them, what are you looking forward to today? What do you want us to really discuss today? What are your expectations for today? I'll give you like a minute so that we can have that interaction. What are you looking forward to today? How excited are you about today's event? Yes, amazing, amazing, amazing. Those are the whispers that we want to hear today. Yeah? Thank you all. Thank you all. And as we start today's event, I want to make sure that we all understand. Today it's about you. We'll be having presentations here at the podium, but we want each and every one of you to feel like this conversation, you are part of it. So during the different presentations we'll also have a Q&A session, we'll have more interactive sessions so that you can also share with us your insights, your questions. Okay, now we're going to dive into the first item for today. If we could all kindly now pay attention, we'll have more time for more interactions in just a few. It is now my pleasure to invite the CEO of Access to Finance Rwanda, Mr. Jean Bosco Yachu, to come and tell us more about today, why we're here today, and why today's event is very crucial. Help me welcome him with a round of applause.
Thank you, Fiona. Good morning once again for those I've met. It's always a pleasure to see you. Many coming to hear from us, but also very importantly, as Fiona highlighted, we are so delighted to have young CEOs in this room. You are the reason we are here, and we shall ensure that we give you more time to interact and engage with us and the key stakeholders in the room. So, senior government officials, CEOs of financial institutions, representatives of development partners, young CEOs, the media fraternity, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you all, and a warm welcome to this event of great importance, particularly for the young entrepreneurs here present. We are gathered here from different institutions as key stakeholders in the public and private sectors and the development community, mainly involved in entrepreneurship, youth employment, and financial inclusion promotion in Rwanda. It is evident that young people are the backbone of the country's or Rwanda's sustainable economic growth and economic development. Therefore, it is our shared responsibility to hear their voices and jointly discuss appropriate solutions to meet their financial needs. One of the most effective ways to address challenges facing young people is to deeply investigate their root causes in order to design evidence-based policies, strategies, programs, and financial solutions. That's why we produce the Rwanda Finscope survey every 4 years since 2008 to guide policy interventions and financial service providers in their efforts to expand the reach and depth of the Rwandan financial system. Today, we are launching the Finscope 2024 Youth Financial inclusion thematic report, which is one of the 10 other thematic reports we'll be producing on top of the 2024 Finscope main indicators report that we launched in June 2024, and I saw majority were there, under the auspices of the Right Honorable Prime Minister. This report that we are launching today helps to understand how the youth in Rwanda engage in financial services, and ultimately provides actionable insights to guide public policy, private sector decisions, and development community programming in promoting financial inclusion among Rwandan youth. The findings from Finscope Youth Thematic Report shed the light on the state of youth financial inclusion in Rwanda, and they will specifically guide financial institutions in understanding young people's specific needs, financial needs, and tailor financial and non-financial products and services to meet them. As we launch this report, we candidly aim to engage with you young CEOs in the room, and we look forward to your reflections, recommendations, based on your own experiences vis-a-vis the report findings, to be able to shape appropriate strategies and how we serve you better going forward. In addition, we are with key stakeholders, many of them in the room, who will take us through their respective solutions to solve the existing challenges faced by young people, but also share emerging opportunities to improve your financial inclusion and the entrepreneurship ecosystem at large. I cannot conclude my remarks without expressing our profound gratitude to our partners whose support made the production of the Finscope 2024 report and the Youth Thematic report a success. These include the MasterCard Foundation, thank you for your support, the Embassy of Sweden in Rwanda, Jersey Overseas Aid, Luxembourg Development Agency, the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning, National Bank of Rwanda, the National Institute of Statistics of Rwanda, and Rwanda Bankers Association. Allow me to also appreciate the Ministry of Youth and Arts, together with Akazi Kanoze Access, for their partnership and support in convening this very important event. We believe this is the start of more frequent and ongoing conversations with young CEOs, especially about access to capital to catalyze growth and employment potential of youth-owned businesses. Once again, I welcome you all and thank you for your participation in this very important convening. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you so much, Mr. Yachu, for that. He has really set the tone for today's event. We know why we're here today, and he has said it very well. Today's discussion, young people are the center of it all. We have different stakeholders from the private sector, from the government, development partners, who want to hear from you. We even have players within the financial, the banking space. We have insurance sector as well. So they all want to hear from you. How best can we help you? Yeah, so I want us all to take out our phones. We are going to also engage and be part of this. Please kindly do scan the QR code on the screen. And if you're not able to scan, you can go to www.slido.com and you'll enter the number that has been projected on the screen. Once you enter, you'll see we have 2 questions that are there, and we want to hear your response. Do respond, be part of this conversation so that we can really get to know what are some of the key challenges that hinder young entrepreneurs to scale up We want all of you to engage as much as possible so that we get to know where are the challenges, where do we need to put more focus on. And as you type, some of the responses will be projected on the screen. Okay, we can see low cost of financing, capital, access to capital, lack of capital, access to finance, financial literacy, credibility, market challenges, capital, not trusted, okay? We'll give it a few more, maybe about 1 more minute so that we can get to collect all your responses. And I'd also like to assure you that all the responses that we are getting, we have someone who is taking note of them, and all of this will be followed through to make sure that we have conversations around this. And most of these challenges that are coming up are actually some of the main things that we'll be discussing here today to help you find the solutions to them. Thank you all to everyone who's interacting and sharing in the responses. Now we're going to move into the next question. What do you think young entrepreneurs need the most to contribute to the country's economic transformation? What do you need the most? Mentorship, we have information, we have guidance on each step, government support, access to finance, skills, access to startup capital. Okay, we'll give it a few more seconds so that we can have as many responses as possible. Okay, thank you all. By a show of hand, I just want to really know how many of us here are young CEOs, how many of us here are representing a business? By a show of hand. Okay, majority of us, yeah? Okay, so what this event really ensures is saying that we want to empower young people. We want to ensure that there is a more dynamic, we want to create a more equitable and sustainable future. We have different stakeholders here with us. Even if we don't get time to respond to some of your challenges, some of the questions that you have, I want to encourage you all to feel free, get the courage, walk up to any of the person that you want to speak to, any of the person that you'd want to share your question with and maybe get a response from them after the event. So we also want to encourage networking, so that you don't feel like you're alone, okay? Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to you all who have submitted your responses. I'm sure most of our distinguished guests here who will be able to respond to your questions have also taken note and will be getting to know more about the responses and what is being done within the next few presentations. Now, as the CEO of Access to Finance Rwanda has said, he's just given us a glimpse of the report that is going to be launched here today. But I want us to get an in-depth into the report findings. We're now going to hear from Mr. John Ruirahira, who is the Access to Finance Rwanda's Head of Research and Information. He's going to take us through the key highlights, what the data reveals about youth access to Rwanda, youth access to finance here in Rwanda. Help me welcome Mr. John as he comes. And right after his presentation, we'll also have time for question and answer. So most of the questions that you have, please do take notes, and he'll also be responding to some of them.
Thank you so much, Fiona, and thank you all, distinguished guests, all protocol observed. It's indeed a great honor, again, as our CEO said, to be standing here and sharing the insight. But after seeing the results of the first question, I don't know what I have to say again. I think the findings is already there. The only thing, my job is just unpacking the responses that were given. But I don't know whether you counted the number of times access to finance, capital came in as a challenge for young entrepreneurs, several occasions. So my role is just simple now, is to unpack those numbers. As the CEO said, honestly, it's very, very important. Access to finance is very crucial for this intended socio-economic transformation. And we know the role it can play if our young CEO, like we are seated here, have access to the facility that are tailor-made, that really talk to their needs. That's very crucial. This report now is going to be built on the methodology that is developed under Finscope. So it's a thematic report. It's not that exhaustive. It is built in a way that responds to a certain methodology, but for more details, more report will come, but also the data set will be available publicly for additional analysis if that is needed. I don't have to say much. The CEO has alluded to this, thanking this support, financial and strategic support we received from these very important partners. So the key objective we had for this survey, of course, this enters within the global Finscope survey. There is no particular methodology for the youth, but youth is part of the overall consumer survey that we did. So it's mainly to determine and describe the current level of financial inclusion. The level of financial inclusion, again, we know a lot has happened, different shocks, but also the COVID that we know and how it has had negative impact on businesses, including youth. So we wanted to capture the status of financial inclusion as it is currently. Of course, we will highlight certain trend. We've chosen to take 2 data points, 2020 and 2024, but for those who would like to see more analysis can even go back to those survey that were highlighted by our CEO, including 2016, 2012, and 2028. You can run different comparison if you need. So we also want to see the drivers and barriers of financial inclusion, access to finance, but also more generally financial inclusion. So this will then provide evidence for policy dialogue. Like we are seated here, of course, there is a lot of dialogue. We're providing information, even for researchers, for looking forward on looking at the barriers, looking at the challenges that we're facing. What can we do as partners, development partners, the banking industry, young CEOs? Of course, there are challenges that are either at the supply or at demand side. So how can we address those challenges that are different points so that we come up with solutions that are adequate to our youth? This is a thematic report on youth. There will be more, of course. On methodology, we started by conducting extensive stakeholders engagement, of course, on the questionnaire. We wanted to ensure that the questionnaire, the tool that we are using to collect data, is reflecting the needs of different segments of population, of course, in terms of the data needs. So we had consultations, we had input from different stakeholders into the questionnaire that we used in this year's survey. So the survey was run from December to Feb 2024, and of course used technology, which is CAPI, computer-aided personal interviews, translated into Kinyarwanda for more for better understanding, because our community, the respondent, of course, understand Kinyarwanda. So in terms of coverage, it's a nationally representative sample that we used, and we draw our sample from the 2022 census. That's our sample frame. So, and we've been able to reach about 14,000 households. Of course, it was weighted, and our general population, we are excluding anyone below 16, so our population will be equal to 8.2 million. That's 16 years and above. Let's talk about youth now. Over the overall population of 8.2, youth represent 44%, which is about 3.6 million. And of course, male represent 43. If we group the youth segment, male youth represent 47% and female 53 in our sample. So in the distribution, of course, kind of similar to the overall distribution, with around 30% being located in urban areas, while those in rural areas represent around 70%. So that's the distribution of the different segments of youth. And of course, the highest proportion is located within the range of 18 to 24 years. With regard to education, this is actually one of the big challenges, the education levels. We're happy that I think the CEO, the education might be higher, but taking youth as a whole, we still have really the education level is still very, very small, with more than 50%. That's around 55% of youth population who went until either they with 5% with no education, but around 50% only reached primary school. And with that, I think there is a limit of the level of entrepreneurship they can take. So the secondary school, 40%, very minimal reaching tertiary, which is 4%, and vocational, 1%. So these are the distribution. Again, I think they display the same pattern, with a big chunk of youth being within the primary school and below. So in terms of employment and livelihood, we have 6% who are formally employed, formal employment, and depending on how it is defined by NISR. Informal represent a big chunk, again, represent the national trend, 44%. Farming, 18%. Those owning a business, I'm sure you are also part of this, is 11%, and 20% are still dependent. Either they're unemployed and supported by others, or they're still in school for studies. Let's talk now about financial inclusion. And this is our overall framework for financial inclusion. And we define it as having or using financial product or services, formal or informal. If you fall under those categories, you'll be treated as financially included. If you don't, then you are totally excluded. We could also unpack further the financial inclusion. You could be formally served or informally served. And being formally served is being served by those institutions that are regulated, like banks, microfinance institutions, MNOs, and so on, while being informally served is using informal channels such as Tontine, Iwimina, and so on. And unpacking further, the formally served, you could be served by like a commercial bank and other formal services, as I said, the insurance, MNOs, microfinance institutions, SACCOs, and so on. So these are the structure of our analytical framework. So applying that into numbers, we find that, of course, there has been some significant increment in terms of those that are formally included, and we have them estimated currently at 94%. These are those that use or have access to formal or informal. And going into those that are formally served, they're moved to 74 up to 90%, banked 18%, and that number never changed. Never changed. We're still at the same place. Like those that are saved were 18% in 2020, and we're still at 18% again. Informal, a big increase, rather decrease. other formal rather increased while the formal decreased. And we would like, of course, to see a shift from informal to more formalized products. The exclusion of youth, as you will see, and on the overall strand is 6% of youth are not served, are excluded. And let's talk about these 6%. It's very little when we talk about 66%. But let's imagine an unlikely situation. Let's bring all of them and put them in one place, the 6%. These are equivalent to 200,000 youth. 200,000 youth. If we were to put it in Nyabihu district, this would be equal to 62% of Nyabihu population. 6%. If we take them to Nyaruguru, these are 63% of the population of Nyaruguru. So we could be saying it as a very small number, but it means a lot. Imagine we are taking the population of Nyabihu, like 62 or 63% of the population of Nyaruguru. We just ignore that, okay, these are not a big concern. But the reality is that we shouldn't be having people who are financially excluded. So we should be having a market that serves all. So the inclusion is very, very crucial. This is the strand. As I said, unbanked, we did not see much change, 18%. Of course, in terms of numbers, there has been increase in numbers, but the reality, in terms of proportion, we're still at 18%. But what are we also observing? We are observing more use of other financial services, which is mobile money specifically, but other categories such as microfinance institution. But in this case, the shift is mainly driven by use of mobile money. Banked, I think we have the CEO of Rwanda Bankers Association. We also have many bankers in the room. I think will help us understand what's happening in terms of 18% of youth who only have access to banking services. What are the drivers? Of course, those that are financially included are those that have accounts or interact with banks. They have active interaction with mobile money. They have accounts in SACCO maybe, insurance, pension, but also in MFIs. These are the key drivers. If you have access to those, you've interacted with those, you are likely to be financially included. But you can see the mobile money is picking up to 85%. So this is a key driver of financial inclusion currently among youth, but also in the general population as well. Informal mechanisms. Being a member of an informal or a saving group, it could be at work, could be in another settings, including also the shop credit. So those that take some credit on a particular shop, you're probably short of some items, you take them. These are also reflected as taking some loan or credit in shops. Village association is also, being a member of village association is also another driver of informal financial inclusion. This is informal. This represents the overlap, and this is our behavior all. If we were to take us here, I'm sure we will also respond to this pattern. Very few have used commercial bank exclusively. You either use a bank, you use other form, including the mobile money. In this case, it's very hard to get a person who is only using one channel. They're very, very, very minimal. But you would even see that 13% of youth use multiple channels, including formal, bank, and informal. But many people are on the side of the intersection between the informal and other formal. that's where many people lie. Let's go to the segments by gender. Overall gaps decreased. Of course, it has been 2% in 2020, is now 1%. But gender gap in the use of banking services, even if we said that we are at 18%, but if we unpack male and female, we found that female are still lagging behind with only 15% of using banking services, while male are at 23%. But you would see that more female are likely to use other channels, including the mobile money services. By age, the highest exclusion is within the age of 16 to 17 years. And of course, there is no surprise to that. As you said, these are still dependent mainly. But those that are likely to be banked are within the range of 18 or 25 to 30 years. In the area, that's geographical distribution. The urban area is likely to be more banked, but unfortunately, this has decreased as well. We've seen a decrease between 42% to 34%, while the use of other services, other form of financial services in rural area is increasing, of course, from 58 to 77%. By province, of course, Kigali is more banked, while the highest level of exclusion are found in the Western Province and Northern Province. Livelihood, working informal, being self-employed is likely to be, you're likely to be very much included. You don't see any number of people who are excluded among those that are working in formal sector, but also that self-employed. But on other categories such as informal and farming activities, you still see people who are financially excluded. Let's talk about savings as well. How we're doing in terms of saving. We are slight increase in formal savings. Saving through banks decrease from 18 to 15%. We see also a slight increase in saving through other formal, but mainly mobile money. And this is, of course, if we talk about banks, this is still really an issue. So we would like to see more young people interacting with banks because they have access to a range of opportunities that can not only be offered by banks and not elsewhere. So the proportion of people saving through banks is still also very challenging. Saving strand, it's the same thing. Of course, 81% have saved in the past 12 months, but of course you would see there is a range of where they save, including informal. So, but again, you will see a 10% gender gaps in terms of saving informal services. So female are still lagging behind, and this is really challenging. Barriers and drivers. Drivers, of course, people save for living expenses. There are those that save for housing or buying a livestock, especially those that live in rural areas, and other reasons such as non-medical emergencies and education. While the barriers including not having enough money to serve. That's emerged as one of the biggest reasons for not serving, not having a job. And people, there are those that also look at it in short term, and they prefer spending the money instead of saving. So that's also another behavior that is observed. And there are those that do not have bank account to save. One would ask why with all the distribution of other channels and mechanism in terms of access, why would people say that they don't have bank account, but we still have people who do not have bank accounts? Borrowing, and I'm sure this is also speaks to the other challenges that we've seen from the findings. Formal credit, slight increase from 16 to 18%. Bank, only 3% increase. Other formal stay the same, and we still have around 50%, that's 46% who do not borrow. It could be that some part of these do not need any money, but again, I think this is still challenging. Most of them are in need of money but cannot comply with the requirements to access financial products as it will be shown here. We still have, again, a gender gap to access formal credit in favor of male. Female are still lagging behind again. So there is a different 6% in terms of getting access from formal financial institutions. The drivers, so people get loan or credit for living expenses, education, and others, but I'm more interested on the barriers side, where there are people who think they don't need loan, of course, but there are those that are worried about not being able to pay back the loan, so they prefer not to, these are 20%, they prefer not to even take that risk because they think they are not able to pay back. And again, that would signal how their businesses are doing in terms of giving them enough resources to be able to pay to pay back the loan. There are those that do not have security or collateral. Big challenges, I think, also speaks to the challenges that we've seen. Others do not meet the requirements in the other reasons, of course. But these reasons, again, I think, are some of the reasons that we highlighted in the other small survey that we undertook. For insurance, compared to the national average, we still have, we are at 25%. There is a 2 percentage point differences, but if we unpack, of course, you will see that there is, again, a gender gap in terms of accessing insurance. And of the 25% of young people who have insurance, there are 4% that have them through their parents, while 21% have them on their names. Remittance, we don't have a lot to say here. 65 have remitted over the past 6 months, and of course, a gender gap of 6% is still also a challenge among women. Mobile money account, which is one of the, we say that this is a big driver of financial inclusion, but we try to compare ownership and the use. And the ownership, of course, has increased from 60 to 75%, but you would see a gender gap again between male and female of 6%, while on the use, increase from 66% to 85%, and a gender gap of 4%, in favor, of course, of men. This is another aspect we are looking at in the financial inclusion, which is financial health. This aspect that is newly introduced and covers 4 main aspects. And under each aspect, each component, there is a range of questions that are asked, and we've come up with a consolidated index that ranges from 0 to 100. And one would qualify as extremely financially vulnerable if they fall in the range of 0 to 24. And financially qualified to be called financially vulnerable if they fall within the range of 25 to 49%. they would be called financially coping if they fall in the range of 50 to 74, and financially healthy, where ideally would like people to be, will be in the range of 75 to 100%. And our youth, this is the situation of our youth. We have more than 40% who are financially vulnerable, with only 5% who are extremely now, very extremely vulnerable. And 51% are those that are coping, trying to cope. They have not established, but they're still coping a bit. So we only have 7% of youth who are financially healthy. I think this is a big challenge to all of us. We want to see more people. Let's hope that with all the intervention by different partners in the next Finscope survey, we are likely to see a change. We don't want to see anything red in the next, and let's work together towards that objective. So in terms of recommendations, culture, gender, and data disaggregation is very, very key. We want to know more, and this is offering an opportunity of gender disaggregated. Of course, we've seen a range of gaps. We cannot just take youth as a given. So we need to unpack and know who are these youth, how are male and female and different age categories, age groups are doing, so that intervention know where to target. So gender disaggregation data is very, very crucial. Financial education. This has also been highlighted in the small survey that we ran. Coaching, financial education is very, very crucial. And we are happy that Access to Finance, Rwanda, Minecofin, but also the central bank is currently coordinating. We have a strategy that is run more specifically by the central bank and targeting different segments. So financial education of different segments, including the businesses. MSME, there's a working group on MSMEs, if I'm not mistaken. So it's ensuring that whatever coaching and skills that are required are also provided to to young people, especially the entrepreneurs. Digital literacy, very crucial. So we cannot talk about financial inclusion and the role of mobile money without talking about digital literacy and how we can capitalize on that opportunity that is given to us. Banking sector, need for using available data and information, of course, within the bank. There is that information that is provided through on the demand side, but also the information they have in the system, that's the supply side information, and ensure that there is a shift towards developing innovative financial products and services for youth. Quality of inclusion. So the question would be how those that qualify for bank services, what are they getting? How easy is the process, and how are the available products speaking to the needs of people or young people, young entrepreneurs who qualify for those services? So some level of innovation and incentive is also required. Savings needs to strengthen channels for saving, but also empowering youth to save more. Last recommendation would be the synergy among development partners for quality financial inclusion. So the working together, synergy, and really ensure that youth have access to the right financial products. Thank you so much, Murakoze. That's what I had to share with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, John. And before you leave the stage, I want to open the floor to questions. This is the moment that you can share with us your insights from the key findings. If anyone has a question, please do raise your hands and we'll bring a microphone to you. Do tell us your name and do keep your question brief.
Thank you so much. My name is Msingzi Frank. I'm a young CEO working at the Kigali International Airport. First of all, I thank you so much for being here in this meeting. It's my pleasure to increase my knowledge and to improve my many ideas on my behalf. First of all, I have a question. You have said in your representation there is a problem of 46% the youth not borrowing. The reason why the most youth, they don't have access to finance, there is many questions. First question, those financial banks you can find in their workers, they have some unskilled labor who cannot analyze your project, and always they think that the youth, you cannot give him too much money. He will go to drugs and whatever. That is a culture now in many people. And then, like for me, I'm a good example of unskilled labor of some banks workers. I shifted my loan from Equity to Bank of Kigali due to analysts who don't analyze my project, and another analyst in another bank, he analyzed the project and he give you money. First of all, I thank Bank of Kigali on my behalf for lending me more than 300 million on my age.
Oh, great.
So then that problem of not borrowing, it goes to the problem of unskilled labor of some workers. The second, the problem is we always, when we are in meeting, we always say BDF, help young people, women and whatever. But for me, I started to request BDF to representing me in the bank when I was 25 years. Now I'm 31. So the problem of collateral is always the problem to the young people. When you are in meeting, you say young people, they don't work, they don't innovate, they don't whatever, and they don't have any option of starting their business. Then my request on behalf of youth who is not here, the government started or reduced the tax about those artificial intelligence equipments. For example, like those hybrid cars and electricity cars. You reduce the tax to 0, which increases the importation of those cars and protect our environment. Then we request, if our country want to see many young people starting their business, we request you put some I don't know how I can say. You try to see about the side of young people, because they don't have enough money. If he has like 1 million and he start a business, he always say the many tax, whatever, and he don't have spirit of continue working on it. So we request those young people who try to import goods from those developed countries, you see how you can reduce for them small tax so that they can start business at large number. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we'll get a presentation from someone from Rwanda Bankers Association to respond to your first inquiry. We also have someone from Rwanda Revenue Authority who will also respond to your inquiry. John, if you have anything you'd like to add to that, or we open the floor to more questions.
I think you've already highlighted what will happen after here. So I think I wouldn't want to go into those matters. I think they will be extensively discussed.
Okay. Do we have any other question? Any other person who'd like to share an insight based on the report findings that have been shared today?
And let's keep it to the survey.
Bank. First of all, we really apologize, but from the bank's perspective, like Gurahira said, there is a policy issue. It's easy for the bank to trust someone going to plant avocado and is waiting for 5 years before they can even know what is going to come out of the soil, the climate challenges. But it becomes hard for an analyst to say, this YouTuber, this social media influencer, they have all this amount of money coming to their bank every month. There is not visibility of what is yet to come, even when it is proven. But truly, there is so much to do with the banks have got to come out innovative and creative. But I can assure you from Equity Bank's perspective, there is so much needed to the young people to address capacity building. Someone comes, has a very brilliant idea, but cannot work on the business plan that is attractive to raise, for the bank to really find it, to raise the appetite. So there is so much capacity building needed, not only to the side of youth, but also technical assistance required to the side of the bank. And I think this speaks to the issues you raised. So at Equity Bank, we have specific products for youth. We have really said cost of lending 18, 19 is quite expensive. Let's bring it down to 16, but even that is still expensive for them. So there is also need for awareness. I think, John, you mentioned it. Even for existing opportunities, for available facilities that support youth, still youth do not know. So there is so much needed really to handle both sides, for the youth, for the bank, to address the issue of capacity building, to increase awareness on the existing facilities, but also to speak to policies. Also, is the BNR ready to see the market? We give out lots of money without collaterals. Is central bank happy for the money market to consume all that risk? I think it goes around the policies, banks coming out of the traditional way of banking, and we open up to creativity and innovation, but more emphasis on the capacity building and technical assistance. Thank you.
Murakoze, amazina ni Cesar Benurugo. Aba naturutse mu Iburasirazuba mu karere ka Kayonza, hagarariye koperative yitwa Community Freelancer Guide, ari nayo yagaragaye muri top 4 muri Youth Connect 2023.
Congratulations.
Mbere na mbere rero nari mbanje gushimira, ndashimira presentation imaze gutangwa ku buryo urubyiruko rukora cyangwa se rugerageza gukorana n'amabanki, reka mbyite gutyo. Ariko icyo nashakaga kuvugaho mbere na mbere ni ikigendanye n'amakoperative. Nejejwe nuko naje mpagarariye amakoperative wenda muri rusange, ndakeka haramutse hari n'undi wenda araza gutanga igitekerezo. Icyo mvuga, amakoperative yaba inzira nziza yo kugera ku buryo bwo gukoresha amabanki ndetse n'amafaranga muri rusange, ariko habamo imbogamizi zigendanye no kuyashinga. Ugasanga byabaye wenda nk'umuhigo wa leta, bikaba ari umuhigo urangiye gusa, gukurikirana bigasa naho birangiye. ndumva ubusabe nabusabaga cyane cyane ku bantu bashinzwe amakoperative guhera ku rwego rw'umurenge ndetse no kuzamuka ku karere kugera kuri RCA. Ni byiza gukora koperative hariho n'intego igamije kugeraho, ariko hakabaho na follow up atari ukwishinga kubera ko yabaye umuhigo wa leta. Ubwo ikindi nkabihuza n'abashyizwe ku nzego zo hasi kugira ngo bayafashe kuba bafite ubwo bumenyi buhagije, atari kwa kundi ujya kumureba ngo agufashe gukora igitabo iki ugasanga wenda agiye muri mituweli, ugasanga gukurikirana amakoperative byakozwe nk'umuhigo kugira ngo wenda ugerweho, ariko uburyo bwo kuyakurikirana ntabwo bishyirwa mu bikorwa. Ubwo cyari icyifuzo cyanjye, wenda waba ahagarariye amakoperative bizabe byiza ko akurikiranwa. Ikindi nejejwe nuko ubundi iyo mvuze Kayonza mpita mvuga ko ari no mu gice cy'icyaro muri rusange. Yo presentation yerekanye ko aba accessing amafaranga especially ku rubyiruko nabo mu mujyi cyane ugereranije nabo mu cyaro, ariko bose tugize ubushobozi bwo kubegera hasi nabo bagira ubushobozi bwo gukoresha amafaranga. Nyeka ko wenda ibingibi nge ntanze nk'urugero umushinga twari twatanze ya n'ubukerarugendo, ni nanjye ubundi mvuga ko nagaragaye mu butegura cyane kubera ko nagize ubwo bumenyi, ariko ngita ko nabugize mbikuye ku kuguru kuva wenda mu cyaro kuza Kigali kugira interaction n'abantu benshi, ariko iyo interaction nagira i Kigali birashoboka ko habaho n'abava hano Kigali bakajya ku interactinga no mu cyaro, noneho ubwo bumenyi bukaba bwarushaho kwiyongera. Noneho uburyo bwo gukoresha amafaranga ari kubizi neza, cyane cyane ku rubyiruko. Murabizi urubyiruko rwo mu cyaro kenshi bakunda kwitinya, ariko hari ababegereye kenshi bakabatinyura ku mafaranga bayakoresha. Ndaza wenda Frank yavuzeho ku mabanki n'iki, urubyiruko rwo hasi ndakunda guhera ku makoperative cyane, bakorana na sako, twifatanye sako, amasako yo mu mirenge, ariko nkeka ko nonaha ntabwo bafite wenda ubushobozi. Nge nicyo nabonye, wenda ni igitekerezo cyanjye, ariko ikigendanye na privacy y'urubyiruko rwatsa amafaranga ntabwo bagishoboye. Ugasanga no mu nteko z'imidugudu baravuga ngo basize abanyatse amafaranga, none ndi kubona ngo bari kunyambura nabi. Bisa ore yo kumwegera ahubwo arabivuga mu nteko y'abaturage. Privacy y'umuntu cyangwa se niyo yaba mutoya irakenewe kurusha uko wamushyira ku karubanda. Ndumva ari byo ngibyo nge nashakaga kuvugaho. Murakoze cyane.
Murakoze. I do know that we have more people in the audience wanted to share with us their questions and insights, but we'll have more time to open the floor to discussions. For now, we're going to hear from 3 young people. We'll start with Sakina Usenjimana. She's the RIAF chairperson and MD for Africa Foods Limited. A round of applause as she comes to the podium. She's going to share with us her experience and her journey. Over to you, Sakina.
Thank you so much. Government officials, development partners, young CEOs, all protocol observed. Good morning. I was sitting in my chair and laughing so much because when you invite young CEOs, we tell you the truth really straight to your face. And I think it's very constructive because I think when we know the issues, it's very easy to find a solution. So straightforward, young CEOs really face so much challenges. We have seen in the survey, it's very, very clear that the number are not really up to date on how Rwanda want to grow faster. So here there's some submission that we really want to give as young CEOs because we are living on day-to-day basis on this data that you are presenting. Starting from the issue of the skills you are saying about some banks, and also this comes also to some companies that we are reading on day-to-day. So what we really want to request straightforward is tax incentive. When we say tax incentive, I was looking about the Startup Act. That I think it have a discussion that we really need to look forward. It's not something new that we are inventing. Startup Act have been really into other countries, I can say Tunisia, Senegal, even Kenya, and this have helped the young companies to grow very, very healthily. We have seen there's some vulnerability that we are having under young companies, and these numbers are very scary. And these young companies you are seeing today, they're the future of our economy. So I think we should not underestimate the young companies. So what we want to look at is zero-rated payee, increasing at least to 1 million. If as we have been saying, human capital is very key. And if I want to hire someone and I'm not paying them up to 1 million, can I get tax exemption to pay so that I can be able to attract the talent so that it can grow my company? There's VAT, there's CIT, tax exemption, which can even start to 3 to 5 years when the company is still growing, because access to finance, as you have seen, is very hard, and this can increase to even working capital. And this also goes to the access to market. When you're accessing to market, let me talk about the public procurement. So young company, you find to access this public procurement, it needs muscles. What is the incentive for young companies so that we can be able to access this market? So this is something I think we have to look at. And this also goes to the credit guarantee scheme. What is the credit guarantee scheme? We have seen in the data, the numbers are not really good. And then how can you help these young companies who are really looking forward to access the finance? How do we do a packaging which is really not even going from traditional to looking on how the world is moving today? And I also want to talk about the financial package, which is mostly about post-financing. So you find most of the financial institutions, they are willing to help you when you are already done your work, but no one is willing to help you to prepare the work to be ready. So I think this is something we have to look at. And even sometimes, even when you have done the work, for example, people who are on the export, they cannot give you invoice discount for a company which is well established to another international company. And then you ask yourself why. Do you want us to grow only locally, or we can go in international market? And with that, I think it will help us to be resilient against the shock. And with that also, I think I will request that we can have the incubation center so that we're still really grooming the company that are still young. As I'm concluding, I want to say, as we are talking more about the environment, I want to say a Rwandan proverb when it say, "Igiti kigororwa kikiri gito." So you need really to groom us and not expecting us just to thrive and you come to start talking to us. So let's help us to grow. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Government officials, CEOs, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. My name is Norman. I'm the founder and CEO of AfriFarmers Market. AfriFarmers Market is an e-commerce platform that is helping smallholder farmers to access stable market for their produce. The company started in 2020 with a group of 50 farmers trying to see how it works. But 4 years later now, we are supporting over 10,000 farmers in Rwanda to help them access market, overcome poverty, and ensure food security across our country. Thank you so much. As we are talking about recently, I was privileged to be given the opportunity to be a mentor to some of the young CEOs in Kigali, specifically in Gasabo, those who got awards from Youth Connect and the partnership with the Ministry of Youth. And my main purpose as a volunteer to support these young people so that they can also step maybe in my footsteps or other young successful people is I always ask them, what are the challenges are you facing? So what I'm going to speak is actually already, Sakina already talked about it, so I'm going to speak maybe what she didn't mention, but something that they really talked about. Some of them are in value addition. Packaging is a big issue. You know? FDA or other, they will come, you're still doing a prototype, but they will come like, hey, you can't even send package in your own way and send maybe for a customer to first test. Packaging is a big issue. Even sometimes talked about the run revenue might even be packaging and sending, you are just still starting, but if they happen to get you on the way and you don't have a receipt for that, and even the customer hasn't confirmed if he's going to take that product, that's also still a big issue. I talked about financial really not having really enough money. I'm wondering, a few minutes ago I was talking to Vivens and we talked about, he was telling me how the money he has raised for his company this year, over 90% has come from abroad. Also looking at my experience, I'm sorry if I mentioned any organization, please, we are just here to talk about this because we love our country, we love our continent, and we want to improve. So when I was, like in 2021, I wanted, to raise some money, buy cold rooms because we were bringing this fresh produce, and you have to keep it fresh and deliver to customers when it is still fresh. So I was looking which other, people that can really support. Somebody recommended me to BDF. So I went to BDF, their headquarters. They're like, okay, because we were in Rwamagana, we had a big base of farmers. They sent me to their office in Rwamagana. I reached there, and they sent me back to the headquarters. I reached the headquarters, like, okay, where are your offices? I says in Kimirongo, okay, go to Gasabo. I reached in Gasabo, and they're like, please, maybe you need to go back there. So along the way, I was like, you know what? No. Let me keep hustling. Maybe one day somebody will believe in me. And yes, I don't want to mention even the other bank, but so I was like, you know what? I went to the bank. It's like, you can see our cash flow. You can see every single coin is passing through your bank, but I don't have a collateral. I just graduated from school. I came back to Rwanda to support my country, to support our continent. You can see, but I don't have a collateral. Maybe if I want to put my mom's house, but she can't even allow. And they didn't even you will need the collateral, whatever amount you give and all that. Then I was like, from there, I started looking for other ways. Then I got these two organizations. They trusted me, gave me 50 million, around $50,000 as an investment, as a debt, a credit. And I've been paying back. Next year we'll be finishing paying back and ask for maybe a bigger raise or a bigger ticket. So my question is, maybe you talked about from equity. If you don't trusting us, you're seeing maybe, why are other people from abroad trusting us? And yet here we're in this country, in this economy together. Why can't you trust us? So you talked about us, reach to us and so, and even the other challenge is, sometimes you maybe in the office, you send somebody, this is also another challenge. When I was talking to these young people that I'm mentoring, the other challenge is sending somebody who doesn't even understand the business model. And you're saying this is the way, and they are even really confused. So if they're really confused, they didn't even understand the industry, how are they going even to report so that we can even get that financial support that we need to strive and to make our community strong? So maybe as I'm concluding, let me conclude because many things have been said. Also something I've realized, this goes directed to the CEOs like myself in the room or even those who are following, I don't know. When the first competition I had was hunger pitch. So when I was pitching, a judge asked me, where do you see Afri Farmers Market in the next 7 years? A few moments before entering the room to pitch, by then I was thinking about where is the payroll going to come for the next month. Now somebody's asking me, where do you see Afri Farmers Market in the next 7 years? But that one gave me a lesson, right? To really learn that when there is vision, there is provision. So the young CEOs, strengthen your vision. They want to see, can you see it so that we can fund it? So I want to really see that one. When that vision is strong, then the provision will come. The provision with the mentorship, the access to money. But people will not come and give you money. Let's go there. They are not getting money. But are we even really prepared? And also something, why are you doing that one? I have this quote which says that when the why is stronger, the how is easier. So when the why you are doing that, the why you started that business, so you get somebody to really help you on the way. So I would say, let's work together in different, coming from these backgrounds, ecosystem, let's work together to ensure that poverty, hunger, unemployment in the next generation will just read about it in history books, not living it. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you everyone. I'm Vivens, and I'm the founder of Murava. And if you are not Rwandan in the room, Murava means courageous. And what we do, we build it kind of the same business model with Afri Farmers Market to be an e-commerce which connects farmers and consumers in the cities. So for us, we build it a talent marketplace platform which connect companies with African workforce with a big focus in digital careers. And it has been 3 years now, and we are proud to have reached over 1,000 people whom we placed in different jobs and projects across our both local and global companies and organizations. As of now, we reached over 200 companies and organizations. So to me, they said everything, but let me talk about the perspective of startups. And I see most of the times in Rwanda, we are confused about the startups and the SMEs. And we end up most of the times the startups, we are not being served very well because they will start to relate it to an SME, etc. I'm talking about these companies that are building apps, platforms, data tools for different sectors. And to me, as even Roman said, in 3 years, the money we raised the commercial capital. 90% of the money we raised came from Europe, as of now. And the 10% that we raised locally, it came from grants and winning different awards, such as Hunger Pitch Fest, and also another competition we won through UNICEF and the Ministry of Youth. And what does it mean? How do we go to raise loan from a Belgian organization, a German organization? They don't know you, they haven't come to Rwanda. They trust you to give you the loan of 100K USD. And maybe you transact with a certain bank here, which I will not mention as well. You show them we do 50 maybe million recurring every month, but they can't even give you 5,000, kind of something like that. And if they can give you the money, the interest is so huge for a certain young company, which is, I think, surviving from smaller margins that you are getting from the products and the services that you are trying to do. So, and to this, it brings me to something which I would say as a recommendation. I believe for young people, for banks, financial transactions could be more important than collateral to ensure that at least as young people we can quickly benefit from the muscles and efforts that we are currently investing in. Number 2, for me, I'm in the business of data. And as of now, the people tend to say that data is the new oil, which I think I'm against, because sometimes if there is no oil, we can still eat, though the food is not delicious as we want. And I want to say to me, especially to banks, before they are fully disrupted by fintechs, data is the new air. I'm sure if there's no air, if we can't breathe, we can't survive. For banks, this is something I think they can really value. Number 3, to young people, banks, I believe they make even a lot of money in terms of profit, which might be something to say if we can even bet on a risk. It's easier, we can't lose a lot of money. When you look at the risk for the banks, they tend to make it more complex. And for me, I believe it's difficult for corporates to innovate. It takes a very long period of time. But there are some young people here who are building fintechs. They are really building the right products, which will even attract new markets. But they are losing even funding, or even most of the times they go to partner with a big corporate bank. Now the bank is like, maybe the head of IT in a certain bank is like, okay, we can build that ourselves, while they are not even going to build that, which I think most of the times the banks might increase their easy collaboration with these young financial fintech companies for them, I think, to maximize the reach and even incorporate the innovation. And the last thing that Norman also talked about is, I think most of the times the young entrepreneurs, we face the issue of getting customers and clients and even user base. But we have the good examples of some young people here who are closing their business and shutting it down because of even a huge demand that they have got. They got a huge demand, but their capacity and the resources are very low to eventually, serve the clients and the customers that they want to serve. And this is something I think also as a recommendation to banks, to financial inclusion ecosystem partners, to even always make sure that for the companies that have already got the client base there might be a favorable mechanism to eventually tailor the financial products and the services that can serve them. And also, all in all, I would also even say that, of course, locally, the things might be delaying, but it's also another call to even my fellow young entrepreneurs. Most of the times, the way to raise money, if locally it's not working well, we just have to go across America and Europe, because at least you can access some of the financial products and the services that can eventually push the business to thrive and survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivens. Certain words that come to mind to best describe their entrepreneurial spirits. I hear bold. I hear resilient. What are some of the words that also come to your mind when you think of entrepreneurs and this journey? Yeah? Just feel free. Just shout it out. Is it courageous? Sorry? Scrappy? Ooh, okay. Yeah? Daring, very good. Any other words to describe the entrepreneurial spirits of our young people here? Resilience, nice. Passion, bold. Okay, guys, from that corner, we do have young entrepreneurs with us also in that corner. So as a young person, what word comes to mind to describe what you're doing and the drive that you have for what you're doing? Build.
Grit.
Oh,
Grit.
okay. Grid. Grit. Oh, yes. Okay. Now I'll just be going table by table at this point. Survivors. Optimistics. Yes, optimism. Visionaries. Okay, amazing, amazing, amazing. Let's give a big round of applause to our young CEOs. We're now going to get a special contribution from one of our distinguished guests. He's going to be speaking on taxation, laws, and opportunities for youth in the entire taxation value chain. And also, this is something that was mentioned earlier today in some of the discussions. But before I invite him, I want to also inform you all, take out your phones. We want the whole world to really know what conversations are happening here today. Go on X platform. You can share with us your thoughts. You can share with us your questions. You can even just share with us some of the important highlights from the report today. Let's share it with everyone so that they know we are having conversations that are driving change in this room today. On X, you can tag AFR Rwanda. AFR, R part of Rwanda, AFR Rwanda. You can also use the hashtag Finscope 2024 Youth. Another hashtag to use is Young CEOs Meeting. Are we doing that? Are we doing that? Yeah. What stood out for you from the report today? Just do share it on X as we get ready to invite our next speaker.
Mine is not a question. I'd like to provide some. First of all, I'd like to start by thanking everybody who is taking to this conversation. And it is very glad to hear from young CEOs, a very open discussion. And my point here is actually to recognize with Frank, when I'm looking at BDF portfolio in terms of partial credit guarantee, that is actually an instrument we use to ease access to finance by actually making sure that we kind of give some level of solution to collateral requirement by financial institution. So when I'm looking at our portfolio, youth represent 28% of our portfolio, and this is not enough. We need to agree with it. And I'd like to give a call upon for allowing youth to access finance through using this instrument. We need to have a strong partnership and working relationship with partner financial institutions, banks, microfinance institutions, and other circles. So if we can look at a forum where we can come together, have one framework where a young entrepreneur will not need to go through BDF, banks, and then other regulatory agencies. So to have a kind of one-stop center services where if there is, for instance, if a bank receives an application to interact immediately with BDF and then not actually our processes are very long. We'll be seeing that BDF is having its own processes, the bank having its own processes. So if we can have one framework to support youth, that is my call. Then another issue is around capital, the issue around trust and young entrepreneurs being trusted by foreigners rather than, I think we need to recognize as a financial sector, we need to understand the market needs. We need to understand the needs from our young entrepreneurs. And for that, we need to interact more with them and then to invest. Why, for instance, developing our financial product to consult them. So we need to do much market research, much consultation with our potential customers to make sure that if we come up with a product, it's a product to be ready to be used by our intended customers rather than sitting in our offices, developing a product and then trying to sell it to the market, and then you have not sufficiently consulted the market. So these are my input, and the issues around collateral, I think right now we have, there is also an issue of awareness. For instance, we together with the National Bank of Rwanda, partner financial institution, we have managed to come up with, and then Singapore, Monetary Authority of Singapore, we have been able to come up with one framework to support MSMEs, including startups, but also some SMEs, to start with capacity building, supporting them at a point where they are able to develop a business plan, and then they can have access to finance using one platform. Maybe that product was not, we have not created enough awareness around this product, but what I can say in this meeting is, so if we can come together, understand our potential customer, understanding their needs, I think we can reach more results. Thank you.
Help me welcome to the stage Mr. Uzawa Chiriho Claudien, Director for Communication and Taxpayer Education. You know the drill. A round of applause until he gets to the podium.
Morning, everybody. As you can read there, my name is Claudien Uzawa Chiriho, the Director for Communication and Taxpayer Education. It's my pleasure to be here on behalf of the Commissioner General for Rwanda Revenue Authority, and we are delighted to be invited here. This is a very good opportunity to explain to the young entrepreneurs what we expect and in what we can help them to be more performant. As you know, Rwanda Revenue Authority was introduced in 1997 by that law, you can read there, with a special mandate of assessing, collecting, accounting for tax, customs duties for designated revenues. Over 25 years, we have realized an increase, an annual increase, average of 13%. It's quite good, and it's a very good performance relating to our economy. We are meeting also the international standards, as we are certified for quality management and also for information security management, just to make sure that the revenue we are contributing to the government is well managed. As far as doing business is concerned, you will agree with me that having in place taxation laws is very important. We try in the legislation to make sure that our tax system remains self-assessment and is based on voluntary compliance. At this level, integrity is commendable on both sides, taxpayers and tax administrators. Taxpayers are requested to comply with tax regulations, which are registration, to do your registration, filing your returns, and the return is valid if it's accompanied by payment, and also reports accordingly. Many young entrepreneurs want to start the business without registering. And this is a very poor beginning, because in the future you'll face some challenges as far as taxation is concerned. That's why we say that registration remains a key function for our tax administration, to make sure that you start with a very good beginning, and this will reduce the tax burden for all the taxpayers. Entrepreneurs used to complain that we've got too many taxes in Rwanda. These are the taxes we've got in Rwanda, grouped into three: domestic revenues, custom duties, and district revenues. In domestic revenues, we've got the pay as you earn, we've got the income tax, we've got the VAT, and also the consumption tax, generally known as excise duty. Custom duties, it's quite normal, because our entrepreneurs will be engaged into international business, cross-borders transactions. So here also, we are also invited to collect some revenues. They need to know what is happening at that level. At the level of district, we've got the rental income tax, the trading license, and property tax. You see your houses, your lands, and so on, and also some administrative revenues. So all the taxation laws in Rwanda is just to make sure that taxpayers are complying with all these taxes. So the taxation laws just to regulate all what you are seeing on the screen, in this slide. To make sure that we are mobilizing very well our revenues, we have introduced some reforms, and we are using modernized system to facilitate the task to our client. We have introduced the electronic single window, just to allow people to report custom duties from their office. They don't need to move. We've got e-tax for domestic tax revenues. Long time ago, you used to come to Rwanda Revenue Authority on the waiting queue the all night, saying that we are at the deadline and so on. So all this, we have eliminated these challenges, facilitating you to report from wherever you are, being in the country, outside the country, in Europe, in Asia, in America, you can report without moving. So we've invested a lot to make sure that our entrepreneurs are not challenged when they want to report the business. We have introduced also the electronic invoicing system as an accounting tool. I know many people don't like EBM, but EBM is just to facilitate you to be in order with your records. We've got the local government system, local government tax system, to make sure that we are recording very well all the revenues pertaining to each district. So the revenues for Nyarugenge should not be sent to Kicukiro, for example, using this system. We've got the geographical integrated system to make sure that we are looking at all the properties countrywide. If you have got your land in Nyabihu, I can identify it from here using this system. We have introduced the electronic cargo tracking system just to make sure that all the freights are well monitored from the port to the destination. In our central room at the headquarters, we can invite you as an entrepreneur. You are operating in international transport. We can show you how your truck is moving from Mombasa Airport till it reaches Dubai ports here in Masaka. You can even see how your driver is cheating the fuel from your truck. So we have been very cooperative with our partners. And also we've got the Sage X3 to reconcile all the banks. All these reforms were introduced just to make sure that our taxpayers are benefiting from the system. By getting this benefit, the taxpayer also should train themselves to be good taxpayers. And here we are presenting some benefits. Remember, I've said that the key function is registration. Once you are registered, you have to file your return. And the filing invites the payment. And the more you register with the tax administration, the less you pay. Because let's say the government needs 1 million francs, and we have got only 10 taxpayers, meaning that every taxpayer will be required to pay 100,000. But if we increase the number of the registered taxpayers, automatically the contribution of each taxpayer will go down. One benefit, the more we are registered with the tax administration, the less we pay. The second benefit, an enhanced tax voluntary compliance will definitely reduce the tax burden so that you can save more cash to invest in other activity of your business. Another benefit Definitely, when we have got in the tax net a big number of participants, will increase the revenue, will be capable to afford additional national need for development. Also, we have increased the service quality so that our client can also enjoy the investment we have made in the automation. What are our means to mobilize sustainable revenues? First of all, we have increased the service quality, and also we are working in partnership with our stakeholders. One, we are engaging the PSF, the ICPA, the ATA. ATA is the Association of Tax Agents. ICPA is the Institute of Accountants. PSF is private sector. So we can't do anything without these key partners to make sure that they are part of the business. Those who are investing in international trade, we have introduced one-stop border post, OSBP, just to speed the cross-border transactions. We have published the charter, the service charter, so that you can claim your rights. If you need your Kitus, you should get it within the minimum time. And you don't need to move from your office to our premises. If it takes longer than expected, you should automatically claim. So we want to work in transparency. Every 2 years, we conduct a satisfaction survey to see how satisfied are our client. I can say, as of last year, we were rated 75%, meaning that we still have something to do so that we can improve our service better than expected. Because 75, we think it's not enough. We should be at 90%. Actually, the tax policy committee at the level of the Ministry of Economy and Finance, we can't sit without the private sector to make sure that we have got the same understanding of the law so that we can avoid any disputes when we want to collect tax. We have introduced the VAT reward to support taxation value chain. The more you purchase, the more you are rewarded by the tax system. You are entitled of 10% of the tax paid, just to encourage people to adhere to the electronic invoicing system. Other means to gain the confidence of our client, we are certified for quality management system. We are there to tax administration diagnostic assessment tool, and also our information system is certified. Key informations. The budget for this year, 2024-25, it's 5.69 trillion, making an increase of 11.2% from the previous budget. The government has requested us to mobilize 60%, meaning 3.5 trillion. Remember that in 97, we started with a budget of 60 billion Rwandan francs, meaning that we've made a very tremendous progress. As I told you, from 97 to 2093, we have realized an annual increase of 13%. Let us have a look on this performance on this slide. Look at 98. We started operating in 98. The trend keep increasing until today, meaning that you are paying very well your tax as requested. Also, our tax to GDP is in the international standard limits. So we are sincerely happy with the performance. That's why we want to conclude by saying what we want, why we want to focus on young generation. As you know, they will be the future of our country. They will be the main actors of the development for our country. We want to focus on the young entrepreneurs for the following reasons: to mobilize the young generation in tax compliance, due to the reason that one of the benefits of tax is to finance your welfare. You can't develop yourself without being in good conditions. Second, to enhance various tax knowledge to the youth for their entrepreneurship initiative in the future. By experience, when you don't understand the taxation from the very beginning of your business, you finish going bankrupt. And then, in some cases, you decide even to fly from the country. You run away because taxation is becoming very demanding for you. That's why we want the CEOs to understand taxation from the very beginning so that we can avoid any inconvenience in the future. We want also to prepare the new generation, the young generation, in fulfillment their tax obligation when starting to generate income through new businesses. It's understandable that by creating businesses, they will be helping the government to combat jobless. Finally, but not least, we want to build the culture of demand and issue of receipt whenever you sell, whenever you buy, so that you can support the taxation value chain. Here I want to say about VAT. The supply chain in VAT is the guarantee of our income tax at the end of the fiscal year. I say thank you.
Thank you so much. And also, before you exit the stage, we're going to get a few questions from the audience. I know there's some, earlier on, some people had a few questions targeted towards the Rwanda Revenue Authority. Okay, we have two. Let me first see how many people have questions so that we have three. Okay, we're going to start with getting the first 3 round of questions. I'll come to you last.
My name is Denise Mutesi. I'm the CEO and founder of Golden Coffee. We do restaurant and also we pack coffee. My question is, as a restaurant, we do pay taxi, but about VAT. First of all, rice doesn't pay taxi, vegetables doesn't pay taxi, potatoes doesn't pay taxi, but for us, we expect to pay taxi. So we don't have anywhere we collect that VAT. So which we find that it's a challenge to us. So I don't know how you have really think about as a restaurant. Thank you.
Sir Claudine?
Thank you, Yvonne, for your question. We've been receiving this kind of question so many times. Restaurants complaining about tax and so on. You know, actually we have accepted that your input from the first purchase, let's say you have purchased some cabbages from a farmer. We used to reject this kind of expense. You have purchased some woods from a farmers. We used to reject and so on. We have agreed with PSF that this expense is deductible. Since it is deductible and you are operating in the restaurant, I know we have exempted the rice, as you have said. But once you have cooked the rice, it's no longer the rice you had at the beginning. You have transformed it. That's why we have deducted your input so that you can collect something on your output. So once the cabbage is transformed, it attracts VAT. Because you can't transform the cooked rice into the original rice. That's why tax is requested, it's attracted there. But the expense you have engaged into purchasing at the very beginning, they are deductible. We used to refuse it. We used to reject. Now we have accepted to deduct.
Next question.
Thank you. My name is Gloria Shimwe, and I'm also a young entrepreneur. I own a bakery and pastry from Huyo district. It's not like questions, there are inputs I want to add. The first one is, as from the upcountry, or district and provinces, the problem is less information from the RRA. Like, I have an experience from my friend. She called me one day, she wanted to open a salon, a hair salon, and she called me, Gloria, they are asking me to get an EBM, and I don't want to pay VAT. How can I pay VAT? And they just started. You understand? She just thought that getting the EBM exactly equals to going through VAT, and that's not the thing. So the problem is the RRA staff. They don't inform people. They don't make people understand why we are getting the EBM. Why are we issuing the EBM receipt? That's the problem first. Because if they come and they tell you, like, go and get the EBM. If you don't get it, you shut down. They don't tell you why you need to get the EBM. Why EBM is important. It's just like, RRA stuff to us is like rib to drug dealers. And another thing is the technical stuff at the district levels. Like in our district, in Huye district, we have only one technical staff for the EBM. If you have a problem with your EBM machine, you will need to wait for like a whole day waiting for the staff to help you deal with that problem. And they tell you you will not work without issuing an EBM receipt. That's a very big problem for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam, for this very good contribution. I do agree that sometimes information is lacking, but people also should know, must know, that having EBM doesn't mean that you are registered for VAT. It's quite different. You can actually you are requested. You should have the EBM, but having an EBM doesn't mean that you must be VAT registered. Not at all, because to be VAT registered, you should have a threshold of 20 million per year or 5 million per quarter. You are beginning, you are starting your business, you don't have this turnover. Instead, you are exempted for your trading license. Since you are very small, you are trying to build yourself. You are exempted for 2 years. I've visited some Western districts. They've charged the trading license to beginners. It's not right, because for small businesses, when you are starting, you are exempted for 2 years. What we have to know, sincerely as a tax administrator, we would like to see all the taxpayers using EBM, because EBM is more an accounting tool than being a taxation tool. And having EBM doesn't mean that you have to pay VAT. No. The second contribution you have made, you are complaining about lack of support when you need EBM services. I do recognize this. We are lacking staff at district levels, but you know, also revenue collection must be cost effective. We are sincerely not capable to have in all the sectors in Rwanda a staff to care about EBM. At that time, the revenue collection will be less than the cost. At that time, there is no need to have taxation in the country. But so far, we have got what we can say training session at our headquarters every day from 9 to 11 in the morning. But this is for Kigali. But also we are planning to have at least one session per month in the district. But in Kigali, it's on a daily basis that we provide this training from 9 to 11 at our headquarters. So please spare some time and visit us at our place so that you can be EBM acquainted. Thank you.
Here I was saying about the payee, where human capital we can pay so much money. And another thing with VAT tax exemption, maybe for people who are starting up. As you have seen in the survey, there's a financial vulnerability for young people. What is the RRA is doing to make sure that it's part of the contribution so that we become financial health as we are brooding ourselves? You are saying about the cost efficiency, but I know for sure when RRA is putting you fine, they will find a fuel to come and check for you and and make sure that you know what you need to do. How about also putting that effort on learning? But tax incentive and tax break, I think, is very key to help us even correct more. You are targeting about 5.7 trillion. If you are giving a big investors incentive, why not looking at young people who are the future of this country in economy? Thank you.
Thank you, madam. You know, okay, tax incentive is very important for some new businesses, I do agree, but there are some type of taxes where exemptions can't apply. Let's take you through the concept of source of income. The Rwanda legislation says that source of income is worldwide, meaning that whatever kind of income you get as an individual, being a resident or outside the country, is subject to tax. Meaning that you can't have from any tax jurisdiction an exemption on payee. It doesn't exist. In our country, we used to tax from 30,000 and above. We have seen, we have discussed with the private sector and agreed that 30,000 is not a lot of money to tax. We have increased this threshold to 60,000. So we are not taxing any amount less than 60,000. But whatever is above 6,000 is subject to tax. You can't avoid it. And also, let's say, the principle is that whatever you get on the land, in the country, you do something and then you get some money. You are a player of Rayon Sport, you get your salary at the end of the month. But players don't believe that they should pay tax. But this is income. And they get more than 60,000. So whatever is above 60,000 should be subject to tax. Also, let's come to VAT. All exemptions on VAT are listed in the law. But you do need some exemption, let's say, on import duties. At that time, you need to approach your ministry, under which ministry you are operating. If it's Minicom, Minicom can recommend an exemption for you. If it's in agriculture sector, it's for Ministry of Agriculture to say that what these people are doing to support their business and accompany them in the future, we recommend them for an exemption. And once we've got this kind of recommendation, Rwanda Revenue Authority automatically, without any discussion, grants it. So look very well at what you are doing, and then the ministry under which you are operating, you can submit your request. We've got some regulations we have agreed together, and then they can submit it to us. Don't submit your request to Rwanda Revenue Authority. Submit your request to the ministry. And the ministry, once the ministry is accepted, we will comply with it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A warm round of applause. Thank you so much, Mr. Claudien. I can see we still have a couple more questions here. I do promise we'll have more time once we get through with the presentations. We'll get more time and you'll be able to ask still the same participants your questions. For now, help me welcome our next speaker, who will be giving a presentation on product standardization and other market opportunities for young people. Help me welcome Mr. Antoine Kajangwe, the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Trade and Industry. Warm round of applause as he takes the podium.
Thank you very much, Fiona. distinguished ladies and gentlemen, CEOs here present. Let me start by just saying I welcome those requests for incentives and exemptions. Indeed, we provide many, but we can discuss that at a later stage or even during the Q&A. But thank you for raising that point, Claudia. I'm sure I'll get a lot of requests following this meeting. But it's an immense pleasure for me to join you for this Finscope Young CEOs Brunch on behalf of the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We're delighted to engage with young entrepreneurs, innovators, trendsetters, as future drivers of Rwanda's economy, and to seize on what matters most for young business leaders here today. The state of our financial ecosystem could not be a more important topic to discuss in this forum. Financial inclusion, access to capital are persistent concerns, and I think through the survey earlier today, that was re-emphasized even more. And so for our young business owners, our startups, it's important that we discuss how financial inclusion can contribute to our economy. My contribution today will look at how young business owners, young CEOs can rethink how they do business by using key trade and investment trends to drive their growth and their development. It's interesting that we have focused a lot of the conversation here today on banks and what the financial ecosystem through banks can provide. I haven't heard any other alternative financial sources throughout the discussion so far, alternative sources of capital and investment. And so I want to touch a bit on this, specifically the use of private equity and venture capital financing. I know this is also controversial, and the question will be, we've been talking about this for so long, so where's the problem? Why haven't we seen the results as much as we have anticipated and as much as we've been talking about it in the past? I see two factors that have limited the proliferation and the use of alternative financial sources and capital, specifically private equity and venture capital financing. On the one hand, private capital, of which I believe there's significant resources locally and regionally. Indeed, in the Finscope survey that was presented earlier, we've seen that the level of saving has increased. I'm sure many of us here in the room belong to some form of ikimina or savings group of some sort. So capital is there, investment is being made, but where is this investment being deployed? And this in itself is the first challenge. How are resources better channeled, managed, and deployed to attract attractive returns on investment? The Kigali International Financial Center and the asset, corporate, and wealth management firms that have been established since then are a testament to efforts that are being put in place to ensure that the infrastructure and the instruments and the firms that can provide this type of venture capital and private equity is available and are available. It's new, it's nascent, but it's growing and it's starting. But at the same time, and conversely, or on the other side of the coin, our firms also need to be more competitive. They need to be larger. They need to be more attractive to venture capital and to private equity money in a way that incentivizes institutional investors, such as banks, family offices, high net worth individuals, and retail investors to invest in youth-led businesses and startups. The United Nations Trade and Development Organization releases an annual report every year on the global investment outlook. It's called the World Investment Report, for anybody who's interested. For 2024, it was just recently released, highlighting the results of 2023. And in 2023, foreign direct investment, FDI, global FDI, amounted to $1.3 trillion US. $1.3 trillion US. Do you want to guess how much Africa received of that 1.3? 53 billion US dollars. 53 out of $1.3 trillion of FDI was channeled to Africa. So the story, though, for me is not the amount of capital that Africa has received, but the type of capital that is channeled to Africa, and by extension, Rwanda as well, compared to the rest of the world, and specifically when comparing it to emerging economies and developed economies. If you look at the flow of FDI globally, majority of inward capital that's flowing into developed economies goes towards cross-border mergers and acquisitions used to accelerate agglomeration of large firms or into agglomeration of large firms. So consolidation attracts investment, which in turn leads to competitive and stable firms that are able to take up more market share. In 2023, in the same UNCTAD report, sorry, it's not UNCTAD anymore, it's UN Trade and Development, and so I always have to remind myself of that as well. But in the same report, developed economies attracted $300 billion of the 1.3 trillion in merger and acquisition capital, compared to just $76 billion in developing economies. Do you want to guess how much Africa received of that M&A, cross-border M&A? 8.5 billion of the 76 billion that was channeled to the rest of the developing world. So when we talk about access to finance, especially alternative financing, the attractive opportunities for cross-border mergers and acquisition capital is limited because the firms themselves are not attractive enough to attract and to deploy that capital. And so what must we do? Well, first of all, Africa FDI is primarily based on international project financing and greenfield investments used for large-scale public infrastructure projects and large-scale new industries and services. So little is left for small businesses and young entrepreneurs such as yourselves here in the room. So there's a need for us to accelerate the use of alternative capital in Rwanda in a way that allows global capital to be channeled to businesses. And we do that, or we can do that, by integrating both vertically and horizontally amongst ourselves, consolidating, merging, acquiring firms in the same sectors, and scaling into large and attractive businesses. But finance is just one part of the story of trade, international trade and investment trends, and how they can contribute to young-led businesses. The quality of our products and services is also of paramount importance for successful ventures. In Rwanda, we have placed significant emphasis on producing quality products. Our regulatory agencies, RICA, RFDA, RSB, work tirelessly to ensure that businesses are compliant with regional and international standards and conformity assessment. I know when I say RICA, RSB, RFDA, others say they're barriers to business, regulatory barriers to business, but they serve a purpose, which is to ensure that we produce quality products, but also healthy and safe products for consumers. But that being said, there's a story that is often lost in the regulatory battle, which is what's important about regulation of standards. Yesterday, I met with a group of investors discussing industrial parks and their establishment, and nearly all of them mentioned their export destination markets as being in DRC and Burundi. So I challenged them, well, why not Tanzania or Uganda or Kenya or elsewhere on the continent? Why focus on just Burundi and DRC? And their response both shocked and also disheartened me. They revealed that the perception of Rwandan products in those countries, in regional markets, is that Rwandan products are of inferior quality, haphazardly done, and cannot compete with products that are manufactured in those markets. And thus, because they're inferior quality products, they should be sold cheaply. But you and I all know the efforts that are being put to increasing and expanding and growing the quality of Rwandan products. That's why institutions like our FDA, like RICA, like RSB are so strong on regulatory standards. And so oftentimes we either are at par or even exceeding the standards that are set. But that in itself is a challenge in terms of the perception in other regional markets. So the story here is not to lessen the quality and the standard that we set for our products, but rather to continue to increase. And beyond increasing, to also ensure that we're marketing and we're communicating and we're expressing the standards that we set for our products and to really lean into it. In some sectors, of course, Rwanda is oversaturated with a lot of firms and businesses, and so we need to also address issues of efficiency of our firms to deliver sufficient and quality products and services. And the regional market is hugely untapped, and this is the point that I want to conclude on. We have huge opportunities for our local businesses to gain even more sales, revenue, wealth, and scalable opportunities by trading across borders. I know a few of you are already trading regionally or even internationally. And it pays to be well informed about regional and international trade opportunities. Rwanda's participation in the East African Community Common Market or the African Continental Free Trade Area provides enormous opportunities for locally based businesses. You can export your goods and services from Rwanda to all 7 EAC member states with no taxes and limited restrictions. I know I'll also get called out for this because there's NTBs. And indeed, NTBs are there. The question is, how do we manage them? How do we ensure that those NTBs can be limited? And institutions like Minicom, like RRA, and many others are here to support and work with you to ensure those NTBs that are placed are limited. But in principle, you should be able to export your products duty-free and non-tariff, and with no non-tariff barriers placed on your products. The AFCFTA, it also provides businesses with access to markets of over 48 other African countries, with a consumer base of 1 billion people and a combined GDP of $3.4 trillion US. So oftentimes when people say that Rwanda is a small market, one, I disagree with that premise simply because of Rwanda itself being a large enough market. 13, 14 million people as a market is significant. As you know, this week there's the Commonwealth Heads of States Summit in Samoa. If you look at the population of Samoa compared to Rwanda, it's when you start to realize the potential market that Rwanda offers. If you look at the trade deficit that we have in Rwanda, it's when you start to understand the potential and market that is in Rwanda. Not to mention, of course, the regional market, the 1 billion people market, consumer market that is there across the continent. But it's incumbent on you as young CEOs, young leaders, to ensure that you also experiment and experience exporting so that you can become a launch pad for international finance and capital and investment that is looking to tap into the regional market. Rwanda is an attractive place to do business. People want to come to Rwanda to establish. They want people to partner with, and they want to use Rwanda as a launching space or as a country of entry into the rest of the continent. And so that is an opportunity for you to explore and to expand and to take advantage of. But finally, what does all of this mean for you as young CEOs who are looking to make money? Why should you care about the efficiency of consolidation or producing and delivering quality products and services and competing regionally or globally? You've heard, and maybe this is more for us working in government, but it also reflects, and it's important for you as CEOs to think about it. We have the new 5-year government development agenda, the National Strategy for Transformation 2. It's our development blueprint for ensuring that Rwanda can achieve middle income status by 2030 and high income status by 2050. It sets out targets for the amount of private capital to be realized by 2029, the share of industry and manufacturing to GDP, the number of jobs to be created, in addition to other social and governance targets. As young business leaders, business owners in this room, you play a significant role in ensuring that we meet those targets. So this is a collaborative approach. There's no way government can reach investment targets, industry to GDP targets, job creation targets, if we don't collaborate with you. So issues related to taxation, issues related to regulation, issues related to access to finance. It's forums like this where we discuss and we try to find solutions that allow us to reach these collective ambitions and goals. And so NST2 and by extension Vision 2050 can only be achieved by collaborating between development partners, public sector, private sector, civil society, and by ensuring that we can create the employment opportunities, we can pay our taxes, we can attract inward investment, we can innovate and ultimately disseminate knowledge and technology. So as I conclude, just want to reemphasize that your companies, as young business CEOs, are the foundational piece to long-term sustainable development in Rwanda, and how we interact, synergize, and collaborate will ensure that we achieve our collective ambitions and goals. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Antoine. Do we have any questions? Okay, we have a... Can I see by a show of hands who would like to ask a question? We have one. Okay.
Murakoze. Munyemerere mvuge mu Kinyarwanda. Nkunze iriya presentation ariko itumye nshaka kugira icyo mvuga ku bintu byose twagiye tuganira kuva mu gitondo. Turavuga access to finance ku rubyiruko, tukavuga ko hari barriers, hari challenges, tukavuga ku bijyanye n'uburyo ba complying n'imisoro, tukavuga challenges, tukavuga ku bijyanye na access to market, tukavuga challenges. Mu by'ukuri mbona hari hakwiye gutekerezwa gute urubyiruko ruri guherekezwa mu guhangana n'izo challenges, izo barriers. Ndatanga urugero. Ndamutse mfite bank cyangwa nyobora bank, umuntu w'urubyiruko nka wa wundi wavuze mu gitondo watubwiye cya kibazo Frank ngira ngo wo ku kibuga cy'indege, aho kugira ngo azambwira ati giye nkeneye amafaranga yo gukora iki n'iki, ukambwira ngo project yawe uburyo ikoze ntago ari bankable, ahubwo nyine nashyiraho mechanism muri ino bank, nashyiraho department yo gusupportinga wa rubyiruko mu gutuma ya business plan ye ihinduka bankable business plan. Nyakubahwa wahagarariye wavuze ikibazo wavugiye Rwanda Revenue, yavuze ati hari ikibazo cya efficiency. Hari efficiency ariko hari na market creation. Wa muntu washakaga miliyoni 300 wirukanya akigira muri beka, washoboraga kugira ngo umwigishe ukuntu ya business ye ishobora kunozwa, ukayihinguzanyo ya mafaranga ari kunguka muri ya business ye, wenda yashoboraga kuba wakoresha umukozi umwe cyangwa ugahugura abasanzwe kuba bamwitaho, bya bintu bigakorwa neza kurusha uko wamubwira uti no genda, beka ikaba umugira neza ikamwiyakirira. Ariko nabo ntago tuvuga yuko wenda nabo ariko babikora, ariko nibura kuri no case twumvise birakunda. Ndagira ngo ngaruke ku kibazo cya access to market standards. Mfuka mu Burasirazuba, ikintu kimbabaza mu Burasirazuba, habayeho initiative nyinshi zo guprocessing ikintu kitwa igitoki. Ubu dufashe nka Rwamagana yonyine, ibibazo bihari bya processing units z'ibitoki bishingiye kuko wenda batarabaye tax compliant, bishingiye kuba batarabashije kumitinga standards za FDA ni birebire ku buryo bamwe bahisemo gufunga bajya kwiyororera inkoko n'ingurube. Ntabwo uzaricinga international na regional markets mu gihe utabonye mechanism zo guherekezwa mu buryo buri progressive graduation, utangira uri muto bakubwire bati harabura ibi ariko tushobora gusupportinga ukazagera ku rwego runaka twifuza. Wenda muri iki gihe n'umwaka utaha utagetinga Burundi na Congo, ariko tuzagufasha ku buryo ugira standards zo kumitinga na market z'i Burayi zo muri Qatar na hehe. Izo mechanisms ntazo ndi kubona mu Rwanda. Niba zinahari urubyiruko ntago ruzizi. Ngira ngo iki kintu wenda tugitekerezeho, birareba bose abavuze, birareba amabank, financial service providers, birareba Rwanda Revenue, birareba leta mu bijyanye no supporting abantu access to market. Kubera ko FDA nibizi kavuga ngo ntago uje standards runaka funga, ubanza ujye kwitegura ubanza uzi meeting, ubuse baramfashije. Ako bavuze bati okay, you are missing ABCD. Tuguhaye wenda igihe runaka, imyaka 5, tuzanaguha supporting na gutya kugira ngo nazo uzi meeting. Ariko hagati aho bukora, wenda twirinde ko hari ibintu bishobora kwangiriza ubuzima bw'abantu bari byo focusingaho, none uzajye ku bindi bijyanye na standards z'amasoko mpuzamahanga, nyuma tuguhe na certification, ariko twaguherekeje. Uru rubyiruko ruraherekezwa nande? Niyo mpungenge mfite, yaba twatekereza gukuntu ibyo bintu byakorwa bikanozwa bigashyirwa mu nzira, ngira ngo uru rubyiruko yanga CEOs ejo twazabona koko bari guhangana n'abandi mu masoko mpuzamahanga kandi tukanabatsinda ndetse tukaba ubukungu bwacu bukahazamukira. Murakoze.
Murakoze.
Murakoze cyane kuri icyo gitekerezo ndetse na comment mutanze. Nibyo hari ibintu byinshi bikorwa kandi ndibaza na CEO BDF yigeze kubigarukaho, avuga yuko dukeneye no gukora nka one stop center yi support yose dutanga nka leta, nk'ibigo bishamikiye kuri leta cyangwa se abikorera, development partners n'abandi. Kubera ndahamya yuko hari byinshi birimo birakorwa ariko bitatanye. Hari program yazamukirana ubuziranenge, hari ibyo aba bankers twavuganaga kare bijyanye na SME guarantees batanga, hari interest subsidies amabanki ajya atanga, ariko ugasanga kugira ngo urubyiruko cyangwa se n'abikorera b'abajene ugasanga ayo makuru nayo bafite. So ni gute ayo makuru dushobora kuyahuza kugira ngo umuntu ajya ahantu hamwe ayabone abashe no kuyabyaza umusaruro yose? Byo wumva hari abantu ushobora gusanga baraplayinze cyangwa se barabonye ubufasha bw'ama institutions menshi atandukanye, BDF, EGF, ngaho hanga Pitch Fest, Youth Connect, ukavuga ariko uriya muntu azi gushakisha opportunity ahaye, which is true. Ariko how do we also make this as expensive as possible ku rubyiruko rwose? So icyo nemeranya nawe nuko hari amakuru menshi, hari ibintu byinshi bigomba gukorwa, ariko tugomba kunoza uko tubikora nuko dufasha urubyiruko muri rusange. Ku bijyanye n'igitoki cyangwa se ibitoki bikomoka ku bitoki, nibyo hari issues nyinshi zijyanye n'imisoro, zijyanye n'ubuziranenge byagiye bigaragara, kandi ndibaza yuko twakoranye nabo n'inzego zibishinzwe. Ariko issue yo kuvuga ko hagomba kubaho phased approach, kandi ndibaza ko ari byo wari urimo uragarukaho, yo kuvuga okay, nimba ari ibintu bicuruzwa mu Rwanda, reka dufashe urubyiruko kubasha kwinjira mu marembo, katubafashe babashe binjire muri business, nibura ba meeting a minimum level of quality. Kubera at the same time ushaka yuko n'ibintu bikorerwa mu Rwanda, ibintu bicuruzwa mu Rwanda nabyo biba bifite ubuziranenge, bitica abantu cyangwa se bibagirire nabi cyangwa bitagire. Ariko hari noneho na standard ikenewe ku isoko mpuzamahanga, utabasha kucuruza utafite iyo standard wabasha kugeraho. For instance, you cannot export utafite S mark, standard mark. Ibyo nta nubwo ari kuvuga yuko ni imbogamizi cyangwa se ni kukunaniza, ni kugira ngo bya bicuruzwa byawe nibigera ku isoko mpuzamahanga abantu batazabita cyangwa se batazabisubiza inyuma. Abantu bakora muri export ya horticulture ibi barabizi cyane, bakeneye SPS certification, not kubera ari a barrier, a regulatory barrier, ariko kubera ibafasha barimo barakora export. Niba bigeze kuri airport yo muri France cyangwa se muri Qatar n'ahandi, basange ngo ibyo bicuruzwa bazanye barabimenye cyangwa destroying because it doesn't meet the right standards. So hagomba kubamo iyo balance, hagomba kubamo iyo phased approach, tugakorana n'urubyiruko n'ama-businesses yacu babanze biyubake nibajya kuri international market to raising izo standards. Ariko na perception y'ibikorerwa mu Rwanda ntituzajye dukomeza twumva ngo it's of poor quality. Niyo change nayo tuyihindure, kubera muri region hose ushobora kuvuga ngo standards ntago ziri kuba met. So natwe mu Rwanda tugomba ku raising a standard y'ibyo dukora, tukayinoza, tugashiramo bwa budasa bw'abanyarwanda n'ibyo dukora mu Rwanda ku buryo twa competinga neza. Murakoze.
We're going to get the last intervention.
Many people here will not be surprised, because whenever I find myself in a forum like this, I like to insist on that, because there's a lot happening in this country. I think I was one of those privileged to have had access and visibility on the different programs and initiatives that are driven by different players, including those in this room: government, private sector, development partners, civil society. But I still ask myself why we still have all these initiatives scattered, which makes it even difficult really to grab the impact that all these initiatives really are bringing. Because there's one specific framework, and I really want to mention it because that's probably where you could have one single programmatic approach that allows to know what's happening everywhere, and you're able not to consolidate. Because what happens is, I found myself, let me use it, framework, the PSDYE, which is the Private Sector Development and Youth Employment, framework led by Minicom and co-chaired by a development partner. And I'm always struck by the fact that everyone comes just to present, what they are doing. Proudly really saying we've been doing this over the last 2-3 years. And then someone else comes and presents something else that, they have been doing. The other one doesn't know actually what you've been doing, right? And you find some duplications, you find some overlaps. They are more or less the same interventions. Some actually even, fight for the same resources. So I think it's really high time that we strengthen such frameworks to introduce, one framework that is going to, it really speaks to the one-stop center that you mentioned, Tony. And I think Vincent also of BDF mentioned something like that, where we are able really to make sense of all these interventions and be able really to assess to what extent they are really making impact to the young people. And when we talk about youth empowerment or youth employment or youth entrepreneurship, you are looking mainly at 4 issues or 4 pillars that you could really have in a programmatic approach. And whenever you meet either quarterly, or monthly, you assess to what extent each contributor is really having impact. It's all around policy and regulations that we've really talked about here. It's all about business development services. I see, a number of people representing, enterprise support in this country. It comes to financial inclusion or access to finance, but it also comes to knowledge generation and dissemination. And the knowledge aspect is also very important. Some young people don't need to reinvent the wheel. You could really learn from what others are doing. But sometimes that collective effort also lacks. I really now am speaking to the young CEOs in the room and other young entrepreneurs. There is a tendency of trying to hide what you are doing or really wanting to do it alone when you could come together and really do more. Sakina, who represents RIAF in particular, this is one of the things we keep discussing, saying you can work together to make more impact. So if you had that programmatic approach under PSDY, it would be very concrete. And really look at each of these components and say, what have we been doing? Private sector, because all these players are represented in that forum. And then allow yourselves really to see the impact each one of them, each one of you is making. It will also inform this NST2 target we're talking about in the Vision 2050. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to assess to what extent all these interventions are making that impact, and it's not even going to create those jobs we are talking about, or even those, industrial outputs that we are talking about. That's something very concrete we could discuss more, but it's all around really strengthening our coordination, avoiding more duplication and overlaps, and really giving value to everything every player is putting to the table, because people are investing a lot of money, but the impact is not yet there because they are still so scattered. Thank you.
As Africa, we're already experiencing a huge deficit when it comes to access to finance. Not alone, Rwanda is also emphasized on the importance of changing the perception for Rwandan products within the regional and international markets as well. Are we still together? Are we still together? Can I just get a wave from you guys in the audience? Because I know the program seems a lot to be happening. Use both hands, maybe. Maybe I'll be able to see you guys. Are we still together? Okay. We're now going to continue with the presentations. Help me welcome another Tony to the stage. We're going to hear from the CEO of Rwanda Bankers Association, Tony Francis Nore. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Fiona. It's a special day of Tony's today. You're going to celebrate us today. Allow me to do it in 2 steps. I will start with my speech, and then I will respond to those questions that we had in the room, which will continue with the question. But I will respond to those questions that were in the room. Senior government officials, CEOs from financial institutions, development partners, young entrepreneurs, young CEOs, distinguished guests, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here today for this important event. I think it's the first one that is organized, if I'm not mistaken. And I really want to see it continuing in the future. When we look at Rwanda is one of the Africa's fastest growing economy. And when you look at the youth that we have, the energy, the innovation, and the creativity that you have, it's important that us, as also your partners and other partners in the room, we recognize your role in the economy. So allow me to outline 3 main challenges that I see from the Slido. It was access to finance, financial literacy, investment readiness. We talked about access to finance, but I will come back to it. But let me talk about financial literacy and investment readiness. When you look at those ones, they are also key, but most often forgotten as key issues really for the SMEs to grow. My advice here, especially for the financial literacy, please read, get information about even how banks works, about the products of the banks, about how you can deal with a banker. Sometimes, yes, it's important, They have their own understanding. We talked about, Frank was talking about the example where, an analyst didn't give him the money. Probably there are other aspects. I don't know the case, I don't have the details, but also try to understand how the bankers also are analyzing. As I said, read. What I want to mention, when you look at, even in the sector, we realize that that gap of literacy, knowledge is there. We started by creating an academy 4 years ago to address that issue that Frank brought of an analyst. Now we are training bank staff to really minimize the gap of knowledge. I wish probably something that we'll be looking in the future, if we can, with this academy called Rwanda Academy of Finance, to open up, even for you. Why not? But for now, is to train really the bank staff. As I mentioned, those were challenges. Now, we have also opportunities, especially in the financial sector. Those opportunities include innovative financial product. Financial institution can seize opportunity to create youth-friendly product, such as a cash flow-based lending without requiring any collateral. That is something that we really need to assess. Yes, today, I may say that we don't have it, but it's something that we need really to assess to accompany you in your growth. Also to look at flexible repayment terms, use of digital financial solution, and also leveraging existing facility within the development ecosystem. We have many development partners who really wants to help, who really wants to support. But that also take into consideration that we need also your contribution to understand you very well, to understand your goals, to understand where do you want to go. At some point, there's an example where someone came to see a banker, and what happened in that case is he had all the documents ready because he knew he was going to see the bankers. But the problem, because the bankers asked for the business plan, what he did, he didn't have so much time before he meets the banker. It was probably 2 days before. He had to ask a consultant to do the business plan for him. And guess what? Arriving in front of the bankers, for sure the banker was asked many, many questions. And some of the questions were in the business plan because he's not the one who did it. He was not really confident in responding. And that brings also that aspect saying, I'm a banker. Bank is about risks. So why am I going to take risk on someone who does not master his business plan? So those are things that, that we have to really look at. I talked about there's also low-cost liquidity that will translate into affordable interest rate for young entrepreneurs and capitalizing on technical assistance offered by the same ecosystem. So those are kind of the innovative product that also on our side we need really to work on. There's also opportunity to collaborate with fintech. Absolutely. Fintech are major players in the system. We now call them co-competitors. We collaborate in competition. Also, we have building capacity and financial literacy, as I mentioned earlier, which is also an opportunity for us to understand the SMEs. Now, call for action. What do we do? I have mentioned challenges. I have mentioned opportunities. So what do we do? For me, we need to develop more inclusive financial system. How? Let us rethink how we design an inclusive ecosystem and deliver financial services where you, the SME CEOs, are really supported at every stage. As much as we need to understand you, you need to understand us, as I said. So it's a collaborative effort. Yes, when you look at the SME industry and SME portfolio in the bank, 20 years ago, really, it was very small. But when you look now, it's growing. Yes, we are not where we want to be, but it's growing, right? So This is really to develop a more inclusive financial system. Second, support youth financial inclusion agenda. I got the opportunity to sit with the executive secretary of the National Youth Council. He was just close to me. And the question was, why don't we really create a steering committee of young CEOs that we have an opportunity to meet, let's say, twice a year, and we discuss. Tell us all the challenges that you face. Let us tell you the product that we have in the sector, new product. You may even give ideas on innovation product that probably a bank can be interested to create. You know, those such small steering committee can be very active and in the future giving lights on both sides, on the bank side and on the youth side, by creating those products that we really want to see from the banks. So it's an opportunity, as I mentioned to Ngabo, the Executive Secretary of the National Council, that we really create a steering committee of young CEOs with RBA. And we will be the channel to raise those issues that you bring or concern to the banks. And then we'll be both accountable to say, what did we do after 6 months, after 1 year? Now, I really want to say that the Finscope 2024 Youth Financial Inclusion Report, it's an invaluable insight for young people, but also for the sector. For us, it serves as a roadmap also for closing existing gaps and enhancing support for the young entrepreneurs. In conclusion, no one can tackle this alone. We need a united effort. Financial institutions, policymakers, fintech, innovators, development partners, to break down the barriers that the young entrepreneurs face. Together, as I said, we can really strengthen the ecosystem by improving access, not just to finance, but also to market and infrastructure that allow those entrepreneurs to thrive. So in conclusion, let's really take proactive steps to work together to see what can be done, but SMEs definitely will be part of the portfolio, are part of the portfolio, but we want to see it growing. But tell us what you are encountered. Thank you. So as I mentioned, I have a second part. I want to respond on the question that were raised. I start by Frank. Frank, I have two good news for you. So first, it's good that you brought the questions. As I mentioned in my speech, we have created that academy, the Rwanda Academy of Finance. Okay, that is really to respond to those issues that you mentioned. An analyst is not aware or is not responding to your needs. So he goes through the Academy of Finance. We started 4 years ago with 20 students, 20 graduates. Let me talk about graduates. Today, as we speak, we have more than 400 graduates in 4 years. Probably the homework I'm going to ask you, if you encountered an analyst that is making your life difficult for no reason, right? Please ask him or her if she went through RAF, the academy. For us, it's a feedback. For us, it's really also to know how we are doing, but also to cater those issues in the industry. The second news, again here, I'm supposed to be a spokesperson of banks, but let me this time change it a little bit, be the spokesperson of BNR. Who knows the Inhuma chat box? Please raise your hands. Inhuma chat box. One, not you, not you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Who can explain in my chat box?
Thank you so much. My name is Jean-Claude Manirafasha, the CEO of Bright Future Contracting Company. So Inuma Chatbox is a system where you can find on the website of Benin, where you can complain or you can just send your inquiry about if maybe you have not given a good service in a certain bank, you can complain it to the central bank so that they can help you.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me just compliment. He said that Chatbox is on the website of BNR. It's also on the website of all the banks. So let's say the case of Frank, you should go on the website of that bank and you will see the Chatbox on your right hand and complete that complaint. And it goes to BNR. And the rest is taken care of by BNR. So I hope it's a good news for you. I know the bankers in the room are not happy. Okay. I may even add the third one. The steering committee, if we put the steering committee in place, those are the channels that we get to have those information. Right? So that is for Frank. Now for Vivien. Yes, financial transaction and collateral. You said financial transaction should be considered more than collateral. It sounds good, sounds interesting, but only on short term. Only on short term. Even beside all other factors not being included, risk, compliance, regulation from BNR, it's only on short term. Just a quick example. Let's say you go to the bank, we are in September 2019, you go to the bank, you got your money because they looked at your financial transaction, right? They didn't ask you any collateral. Now March 2020 happened COVID-19. How will your financial transaction look like in January 2021? That's a risk for the bank, definitely. So just one of example, I don't go into details, it shows how it's only valid on short term. And as I said, I didn't consider other factors. Then probably another point that should be mentioned here. Yes, you know the product of the bank. Probably you know the product of your bank. You don't know the product of the other bank. Let's give you an example. We have women, young CEOs in the room. You deal with your bank X. You have a product that is offered to everyone. You don't know that the bank Y has a specific product for women. Who knows that there are banks now that have specific product for women with an interesting interest that is less than the usual interest that we have in the market? Who knows? There are banks. There are banks in the room that offer specific product for women. You are women in the business, this is your line. They receive you and you have those interest rates. They're giving 12%. I'm not here to advertise banks. You get 12%. Where do you get 12% in another bank if it's offering normal product? So that's why I say, get to know what we are offering. Product change. You know probably the product of your bank, but you don't know the product of other banks. Ask question. Check the website. Check the website. even now, BNI has started to put the rates of banks on loans. So you don't need to go starting in the morning at 9 when banks open. You start with bank A. You sit with the officer to ask for loan. He explained to you, and he said, what is the rate? Let's say 18%. Then you leave his office or her office. Then you go across the road to see another bank, another officer. You sit again for another 30 minutes, explaining, trying to convince you, saying, no, the competitor does not do this. Us, we can give you more, can give you less. So you can spend 5 hours in a day looking for 4, 5 different options. Now you have that access on internet. Just you click on BNI, give you those different rates from different banks. So those are the elements. I want also to add, okay, who knows that there are banks now have opened specific line of business for SME only. They call it SME Center. Who have heard about SME Center? No one. So those banks have problem with marketing. No one. We have even a SME Center in it's chic. I was going to say chic. So that SME Center is specifically for small and business enterprise. Take advantage. They don't mix you with corporate, they want to understand you from A to Z. So it's up to you, it's up to them. So let's take those opportunities. Get informed what is happening in the financial sector. Go to our website. Look our information. We put information on our website so that you can be aware. Be more alert when you go to see your banker. Lastly, just be transparent when you meet your banker. Be transparent. Sometimes, you want to portray something probably, that you don't want to mention, but the banker will want to have those information. And if he gets the information by some other sources, then you understand the following response. So I thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. So distinguished government officials, development partners, CEOs, young CEOs, good afternoon. Mwiriwe? Murakoze cyane. I work for Akazi Kanoze Access as the executive director, as they mentioned, and we are a youth serving organization, basically doing 2 jobs. Number 1, we train youth to be ready for work and to be ready for business. So we serve the youth, basically. And we are working with different partners. We are working with AGRA through MasterCard Foundation funding. We are working with King's Trust International from UK. We are working with NABED. We are working with RTI. And we want to thank the young CEOs for taking the courage to do the work they are doing. And as Akazi Kanoze Access, we did appreciate meeting the young CEOs. And when you hear the work we are doing, we are trying to make sure that we have other young CEOs coming behind you, so that we can have hundreds, if not thousands, of young CEOs. And our humble request, CEOs here, is to request you to mentor them, coach them,
you saw some of the challenges, the needs they mentioned, they want from all of us is mentoring and coaching, for example. That's one of the things they shared. And if you can mentor one colleague, one youth, to learn from you, that would be a very big contribution, because that is part of the work we do, to train youth to be ready, to start businesses, to go to the banks, to ask questions, to look for loans, but again, try to help them start small saving groups so that they can have that courage of saving and then move on, for example, to go to the banks, as we had from different speakers, and make sure that they can get more money to expand their businesses. So we want to encourage you so that you keep on moving. Of course, you mentioned some of the challenges you are facing. And the good thing with all of us here, we agree that we need to have a platform where you can always meet with these young CEOs, so that in the future, we meet them when they are not young CEOs, but old CEOs. So that's a very good wish, for example, suggestion from all of us. And we want to thank the Ministry of Youth and Arts. We want to thank Access Finance Rwanda for working with us to make sure that we have this platform meeting and discuss and talking. And you guys, young CEOs, don't shy away from meeting or shaking hands with people in this room after this session, so that you can exchange contacts, you can reach out to their offices to share your ideas. But again, for example, if you have some questions, some of the learnings you want to hear from them, you can learn. So we want to thank you for attending and again responding to questions of young CEOs that we want to see in the future as big CEOs. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're now going to transition to our next contribution on role of development partners in unlocking youth financing and resilience. Help me welcome to the stage Mr. Elize Kamanzi, Head of Enterprise Growth and Entrepreneurship from the MasterCard Foundation. You know the drill, warm round of applause until he gets to the podium. Let's continue with the applause. Okay, thank you.
Honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, most importantly today, I will speak about the CEOs, the young CEOs, because you are the heroes of today and you are our guest of honor. And dear participants or protocol observed, good afternoon. I stand in front of you today with a great honor to represent my country director who was not able to make it today because of other commitments. But be assured that he's transmitting his warm greetings from wherever he is in Ethiopia for especially celebrating today's milestone as we launch this CEO's Brunch for the first time. I have to say that it gives me an opportunity as well to learn live from the young CEOs, from their insights. And I'm happy to have been chosen for this moment, because otherwise I wouldn't have been able to learn from this wisdom that lies in the hands of young people. Well, when we talk of financial inclusion, we need also to flip it a little bit and think about when we talk of financial inclusion, it's because there is exclusion. And whenever we talk of 18% of young people being served, it means we are leaving out 82% of other young people not being served. And that is an opportunity to make a change. I'm here particularly to really thank the bold young CEOs who shared their insight, but also the have taught us some great lessons, and we believe these lessons are going to be central for us to design and implement programs that speaks for them, with them, and for them. As I have listened to the presentation of the Finscope discovery, I would want also to share a little bit of personal takeaways. All the interventions we have listened to this morning, be it from Sakina, Frank, and others, they have something in common. From Frank's presentation, I've been able to detect passion. And when he prompted us to work on adequate and tailored financial products that really support young people to start and grow businesses, I personally believe we all have heard. We listened to you. And being part of the MasterCard Foundation team, listening is one of the values we put forward. I just want to assure you, Frank, your comment landed in more ears than what you think. Not only the bankers' ears, but to many ears of the people in the room. I have also had a chance to listen to Sakina's testimony. That is sharp, it's clear. Young people know what they want, and they know what they are missing. So I will use Sakina's experience just to quote that we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. Sometimes we can learn from other countries, and experience has shown that other countries have a startup act that enables young people to start a business and grow them and thrive. Maybe this is something we should be able to collectively take away and explore opportunities to make it happen. I will also quote what she said. Let's groom young people instead of waiting when they are thriving and then we come to them. So that is really a sharp message. It's inspiring, and we have listened. From Norman and Vivens, we realize that observations, what you go through as young CEOs, is common to many of you. And I want to quote a figure that I saw. 11% of young people in Rwanda own businesses. So you are among a few that are privileged, but still, you are privileged, but you still face barriers. And I believe having these common issues calls upon all of us to act to solve them. And I'm convinced we can if we put our hands together. Let me talk a little bit about the MasterCard Foundation. As an employee of the MasterCard Foundation, when I wake up in the morning, one question that comes to my mind is, I did great, but what else can I do to accelerate young people into work opportunities? And as the MasterCard Foundation, we have an ambitious target of enabling up to 300,000 young people into dignified and fulfilling work opportunities. And like if that wasn't ambitious enough, we want 70% of those to be young women. Honestly, when I think about it, I feel like, well, without having the partners that we have in this room, then it looks scary. But for those who didn't know, that is our ambition, and we are not shying away from reaching it. So because of this ambitious target today, I'm not here just as an employee of the MasterCard Foundation, but I'm here also as part of the ecosystem, taking away key insights and learning, and from you, especially young entrepreneurs, to see what more can we do so that we can address these issues of access to capital, issues of collateral requirement, lack of tailored products, maybe to some extent limited financial literacy on our behalf. And we are here on this journey, and we believe we shall move the needle. So heading towards the conclusion, just allow me to thank the organizers of this event, the Access to Finance Rwanda, for convening such a big gathering. It's an important conversation, and we cannot go without saying thank you for making it happen. We know financial inclusion among young people is dear to your heart. It's dear to the work of the MasterCard Foundation, and I believe that everything we had today has not only refueled us as a community, but has revived our commitment to serving young people moving forward. So to all the stakeholders in the room, financial institution, other actors, we believe there is no future without addressing financial inclusion for young people. We call upon you to join our co-creation efforts to move the needle one day at a time. If we did that, then we are building a resilient tomorrow for our young people. To the government of Rwanda, through the Ministry of Youth and Arts, and through the Ministry of Trade and Industry, we want to reiterate that you are central to our collective efforts. You are the piece that brings us together, and you have been enabling. Please continue to guide us as we design programs under your leadership for young people and with them, because there's nothing we can do without them. Just grace us with your insight and direction. I would like to end my remarks here, but without forgetting the heroes of the day. To the young CEOs, business leaders, it's not because we say young CEOs that you are less of a CEO. You are strong CEOs. We just want to focus on young people because that is who you are. And you have been brave to start something that many of us did not start. We really value your insights, and I can promise, if you keep preaching, we will also keep listening. And together, we can create that future, that aspiration that you look forward to. On that, allow me to close my remarks and quoting a little bit of history. The Latin people say, historia magistra vitae, so which means simply, you cannot learn without looking backwards. So history is the master of life. So let's use this insight from the Finscope to plan for a better future for young people, for young entrepreneurs. Thank you very much, and have a great afternoon.
So now we are going to open the floor to questions. I can see a couple of hands. I'd like to mention that we also have a special guest who will be joining us very shortly for the closing. So let me start with this side, and then I'll come to that side. We're going to get about maybe, let's say, 3 questions. Do tell us your name, who your intent, who you'd like to respond to your question.
Thank you so much. My name is Cabano Franco. I own the modeling agents. We work internationally. So my question goes to Rwanda Revenue Authority. We have a problem of double taxation on the international market. Every time we get paid, before we look to our statements, we cry one eye because we know we will pay more than 61%. Can my country work with those international or abroad countries so that we can't pay a lot? We would like to earn a lot and bring money to our country, but we lost a lot of money because of double taxation agreements, especially for France and Italy. It's so insane. Thank you.
What is important for us is to avoid, as you are saying, the double taxation. I do believe until now, unless you prove the contrary, once you present your certificate that you have paid tax in the country with which one we've got the DTA, automatically we grant you the foreign tax credit just to deduct what you have paid outside. But you have also take note that this is valid if the abroad tax rate is bigger than ours, because we can't pay more than what you were supposed to pay here. Otherwise, we would be financing that country. So please document your transactions and come, submit your claim. You'll get a refund if your documentation is quite complete. Thank you.
Ndifuza gushimira uburyo Rwanda Revenue isigaye iri friendly mu kutwaka imisoro. Ni uburyo bwiza rwose ndagira ngo mubashimire n'ukuri. Usanga nk'ubu ngubu hari imisoro bagiye bahuza, amariforme bagiye bakora nk'ira ipatante n'ira misoro y'amahoro bise bitangirwa hamwe kandi byarorohejwe. By'umwihariko ndashaka gushimira nyakubahwa Perezida wa Repubulika wabitanzeho umurongo kugira ngo batworohereze. Nukuri ngira ngo mumfashije twamushimira. Ikindi nshimira uriya muyobozi wa Rwanda Revenue waje yatwiye ko hagarariye communication. Nukuri akazi ke bagakora neza cyane. Hari message iyo umaze kwishyura ngo baguha, ngira ngo mwese mujya muyibona ngo turagushimira uburyo wamenyekanishije ukanishyura uyu musoro, kandi turagushima umusanzu wakoze mu kubaka igihugu. Iyo message ngira ngo iraryoha. Iraryoha ukumva yuko nyine si ukwishyura gusa, ahubwo hari feedback bahise baguha. Rwose communication muyikora neza kandi muzakomeze n'ubundi muwo mujyo mwiza. Akanyuma nshaka gushimira none nuko wa mama wa Equity nabonye banza hari yasohotse. Equity badukora ibintu byiza cyane muri mu buryo bwo kwishyura imisoro. Iyo ukoresheje app yabo ni free of charges. Ngira ngo abenshi mujya muhasoringa mujye kwishyura imisoro muri kuri mobile money ukuntu mujye na charges ziba zihari nyinshi cyane. Rero Equity ndabashimiye nubwo hari mugenzi wanjye ugeze kugira ako kantu mu kwishyura imisoro aho hantu rwose free of charges biradushimisha cyane. Ngira ngo hari n'izindi zira companies za telecommunication nazo zagerageza zikabanyuza kuri izo charges kuko tuba turi kubaka igihugu ntibakado charging ibyo bindi twe tuba turi kwishyura imisoro rwose. So murakoze cyane.
Murakoze, nitwa Shema Pacifique ndi umuyobozi wa Sanitec. Hari icyo nashakaga kuvuga nanjye ku bijyanye n'imisoro, cyane cyane ku ma startup ndetse n'amakampani y'urubyiruko. Tuba twishyura imisoro yego, ariko iyo bigeze muri refund, urugero nk'iyo uyu munsi wenda warishyuye ukorera payment neza nta kibazo, iyo bigeze ku kuba noneho amafara expense zararuse series mu gihembwe runaka kugira fund zaboneke biragorana. Twasabaga kugira ngo Rwanda Revenue nayo izabikoreho, kubera ko uyu munsi ushobora kuba wacuruje yego, ejo expense zikaba nyinshi ugasanga ya mafaranga wakayakoresheje wishyura igihembwe gikurikiyeho. Murakoze.
Ariko ubu ngubu twashizeho task force ku buryo buri karere kohereje umukozi turabafite hano i Kigali bo gukurikirana za refund zose zahindutse ibirarane kugira tubyihutishe. Bo twagiraga ikibazo cya cash flow, ariko Minecofin yatongereye amafaranga percentage igenewe refund, ku buryo ubu ngubu turimo turasubiza tukurikije ishaje kurusha indi. Birumvikana, ariko mwese muzaba saved. Ariko nanone iyo refund yawe yabaye confirmed, nyamuneka nyaruka ku biro byacu tuguhe igipapuro cyitwa tax credit icyo uragiheraho mu kwezi gutaha, aho kugira ngo uze utwishyura andi mafaranga kandi tukufitiye andi tukubikiye. Icyo gipapuro kiraba gifite value ya cash. Uraza niba tukufitiye miliyoni 100 ugomba kutwishyura miliyoni 90. It makes no sense ko watuzanira amafaranga kandi bitwa ko tukufitiye andi. So turatanga credit note wakoresha mu kwezi gutaha uje kwishyura ukayikoresha, aho kugira ngo ujye gushaka indi cash flow yawe urushaho kugabanya cash flow yawe. Ndumva ni igisubizo twabonye mu rwego rwo kwihutisha no gutuma abantu bacu bakomeza gukorana ibyishimo.
Right, thank you very much. My name is Johnson, and I'm the founder of a company called Johnson the Baker. So me taking the microphone is mostly in form of suggestion and concrete ones. As a young entrepreneur, I believe that yes, we have access to many opportunities as the youth, but most especially, I think it's very important to understand the schedule of a startup owner and how draining it can be. The first 2 years of a business can be very draining, and things such as a social life or even checking social media becomes almost impossible, right? So sometimes that is why the youth, especially those in the first 2 years of the business, do not have access to such informations. So I would suggest to maybe the Ministry of the Youth to have like a centralized, like a kind of irembo of startups, basically, where you have all the different incentives by the government, the different grants, seed funding, etc., that such packages could be maybe hosted by another organization such as the MasterCard Foundation on the website, and then the young entrepreneur, after a long day, maybe baking or in his garden, could check and then see the opportunities in just one website. And that, I believe, would give more information to the youth. And I would also like to thank the Rwanda Revenue Authority for helping startup owners in keeping their books and complying with taxes, despite the fact that they are sometimes very busy and running up and down. There is an app called Injonge that's available on Google Play. And with that app, you can make EBMs with your phone and send it to your customer as soft copy without having to print it. Thank you very much.
So I wanted to address my question to BDF CEO. Until now, young CEOs, we are not convinced by BDF services. So I was in their office, I think in the last 3 years ago. I was asking them to support my project, but their requirement was very, very difficult until I changed the bank. I was supporting by Koje Bank at that time, and I went to Beka. So I wanted to ask him if it is possible today, because that crane, I have given a crane and I need another one. So my market is very big. If it is possible today, he can answer me. Thank you.
To discuss the case now, since I don't have details on that transaction, it is dating 3 years back. So I'm ready to support you to look into your proposal and then to see the solution it can give to you. Thank you.
It's not only BDF that provides guarantees. There are other providers of guarantees. And most banks, they have guarantees. And I give you an example. If you follow in the news, we have signed with I&M Bank and BK a portfolio, an SME portfolio guarantee cover, which goes up to 70%. As long as you are in, and so covering so many sectors, including logistics. So I think it's very important when you think the problem is collateral, Rekambasabe, come to Access to Finance Rwanda. We shall give you enough information and link you with different, there are those that cover up to 95%. They're there, and banks have them. So if you have a problem of collateral, come to us. I offer that. We shall support you to navigate where the information is and where you can get support. It was very important, but not always BDF. BDF has done also great, but we know, I think one important issue, you talked about the length, I mean the time it takes to, get an approval at the bank, but also an approval at BDF. This portfolio guarantee that we gave to banks, you don't need that. In fact, we told banks, you assess if you are comfortable, just give the loan. You don't need to send us a file. So because we are doing a portfolio guarantee. So that's easy, quick, and we can support really. I think there's, who is managing that? Roger, can you stand up? Get his contacts. He will support you. Thank you very much.
We know now in Rwanda for the startup company, there is some exoneration for the some taxes, but my advice is that if possible for the startup company, it can provide some certain support for the tax incentive, or there is some way to help the young CEOs by reducing or waiving the certain tax for the period, in order to encourage the young people to engage in own a business. That is my suggestion for RIA. The second is for financial institutions representative. We know here there is some information, but the people don't know. So it's better to provide the information through other way different to the website, because many people don't access on the online platform, especially in the rural area. So the third is for BDF. For BDF, thank you for some supporters to the young entrepreneurs, but there are some gaps on working activities every day. So we try to make clear and to try to help the young CEOs to access to the finance in easy way, because it's a long channel to get grant from BDF. Thank you.
We've had a response from the BDF CEO as well. As before we transition to the minister, I'd just like to bring back Rwanda Revenue Authority. Maybe you can touch on your first point. Also, I have Frank, who's still telling me that Rwanda Revenue Authority has not answered my question, which was around tax exemption. He gave an example of how Rwanda has exempted import of hybrid cars. If also young entrepreneurs, when importing goods, they can also get such.
All the exemptions are listed in the law. We have to grant them. But if you would like a special treatment, you must pass through your ministry. And once the ministry accepts it and recommend it, we will grant it. Otherwise, we are stuck by the law. The list of exemptions is in the law. We grant it. But if you want a special treatment, the MINICOM, the MIFCOFIN, the Ministry of Agriculture can grant it, can recommend it, and then you come to us. With that approval, that recommendation, then we grant it. I can't tell you here that revenue grants the exception. No. Revenue, we execute exceptions listed in the law. But special treatment through the ministry. Is it clear now? I think I've addressed the issue. But if you want more explanation, just visit us at the office for more clarification. Am I okay now?
We had open and honest conversation between young CEOs as well as different stakeholders, all trying to find solutions to some of the pressing challenges. We also had a presentation of the Finscope 2024 Youth Thematic Report that is really a blueprint for action. And without further ado, we would like to welcome you to come and deliver your remarks. A round of applause as Honorable Minister of Youth and Arts makes his way to the podium.
Mwiriwe mwebwe se murahaze ko numva icyongereza kikiri cyose ngewe aya masaha kiba cyagiye nta so reka mbanze nsuhuza abantu mu cyongereza ariko ubundi twiganire mu kinyarwanda. So I want just first of all to thank the CEO of Access to Finance Rwanda and Akazi Kanoze. Where is Akazi Kanoze? Yes, thank you for supporting the Ministry of Youth and Arts to organize this young CEO brunch. Something we have invented together, and we think it may continue even next year, and because I think it has been a great meeting. So we have senior government officials, development partners. I saw my colleagues from DOT Rwanda, CRS, and so we have many development partners together, and we have the CEOs, like what we call young CEOs. So I want just to thank you for attending our first ever invitation, and the turn-up is good. They told me the number is around 200 young CEOs, and we have Minicom, we had Rwanda Revenue Authority, who have delivered really good talks to the young people. So I want just to thank you. Next, I'm going to speak in Kinyarwanda because my vocabulary at this very time is very limited. It was the brunch. Now I don't know if it is brunch anymore. Baba, hi breakfast. It was supposed to be together. Ariko nta kibazo. Icyambere muratwihanganira kubakereza kubaha lunch. Ubundi byagomba kuba igihe gitoya. Ariko kubera ko mwagize ibiganiro bitinda ndetse nanabasabye yuko inama ngiyemo iri buze gutinda bantegerezeho gake, nabyo tugerageza kubikurura kugira mbone umwanya, muratwihanganira aho kandi mbashimire ku biganiro byiza mwagize. Hari abagiye banyoherereza ibyo mwagiye muganira n'ibitekerezo, kugira ngo rwose nshimire ibitekerezo byagiye bitangwa. Umuntu utumva ikinyarwanda urimo hano umuntu yamwegera akamusobanurira nkawe, ubwo urumva nawe niba cyashize ubwo ni so icyambere ikintu cyitwa access to finance, kuba urubyiruko rwagira amahirwe yo gukora ku imari, ni kimwe mu bintu leta yacu, guverinoma y'u Rwanda ishyizeho umutima. Ni ukuvuga ngo nk'uko benshi mwabyifuje, iyi nama yo kugira ngo urubyiruko rwarwo baganire ku mafaranga na access to finance tuzajya tuyikora nibura buri mwaka, rimwe mu mwaka, ku buryo abantu bareba ibi bipimo bakabicalenginga, aho ikibazo kikiri abantu bakagishakira igisubizo. So access to finance ni ikintu cy'ingenzi cyane. Nabonye imibare yarazamutse ndetse n'imibare iri fomo, abantu bakoresha amabanki birazamuka, nagira ngo ari ikintu twishimira. Ikindi nakunze umuyobozi wa BDF namubonye, mushimire ko nibura yanitabiriye. Yitabiriye, CEO arahari. Nari maze iminsi mpuye nawe ndamubwira nti amakuru agenda aturuka mu rubyiruko aravuga ko BDF mwikosoye. Ariko reka mbwire n'urubyiruko rwinshi numvise ibibazo ngo byinshi byaturutse mu mpande zose byabazaga BDF. Ariko reka mbibiri ibanga, BDF yarikosoye. Yarikosoye, izina ryarahindutse. Nigeze no kumwosha ndamubwira ngo uwamuhindurira izina kugira ngo wenda kurumva ryigeze kugira igihe abajene bararyanga, ariko this time BDF iratanga serivisi nziza, ujyayo bakakwakira bakagusobanurira. Of course amafaranga nkamwe mukora mu bucuruzi, amafaranga muzi ko ahenda kuyabona. Iyo niyo first principle. Amafaranga ntabwo ari ikintu cyoroshye kubona. BDF rero yahinduye imikorere, nanakunze na humility ya CEO. Mwabonye ko abwira wa mujene ati rwose uzaze ufate nimero yanjye uzaze tubiganireho. Iyo ni intambwe bikomeye buriya mu gusavinga urubyiruko. Urubyiruko rukeneye yuko turusanga, turufungurira amarembo, hanyuma ibintu byinshi bigakosoka. So thank you for that opportunity you offered the youth. Ikindi ngira ngo Minicom mwaganiriye, hari ibintu byinshi birimo gutegurwa bigenewe urubyiruko, ariko nakunze igitekerezo mwatanze yuko mushaka better coordination. Hari n'uwatanze igitekerezo cyuko mukeneye a kind of one stop center, aho mushobora gusanga aya makuru yose hamwe. Ariko nkeka ko urubyiruko ubu ngubu tudakeneye a physical one stop center. What if you find among you guys muri mwebwe umuntu designinga a software or something, aho dushobora kubona amakuru yose hamwe ariko digitally? Ntibishoboka se? Hano ntiharimo abantu ba smart class yaje. If you can do a smart class, why don't you a smart something, aho dushobora kubona amakuru yose? Ngewe ntekereza ko uramutse ukoze aga software, aho naklika nkabona incentives ziri muri Rwanda Revenue Authority, naklika nkabona incentives ziri muri mini ICT, Minicom, ngaklika nkabona ibintu biri muri access to finance n'abandi, at least waba udufashije. Hanyuma wabijyaho ukabona hari aho bigomba kugera bakakubwira ngo at this stage come physical to our offices. Ntibishoboka. Abantu bashaka kukadesigninga bugacya kabonetse, hanyuma wenda kugacuruza bikazaza nyuma, but you can start it as a volunteer. You can start it as a volunteer. Ikindi nahoze ndeba ku rutonde rw'abatumiwe, ndeba ko twatumiye nibura urubyiruko ruturuka mu turere twose. Nizeye ko Ngabo yaje. Ngabo arahari? Yarakaye kuri Twitter ngo twamusabye kongera koga, ngo n'ubushize yaje Kigali roga, ngajya yoga rimwe mu cyumweru. Ngabo twakwakiriye n'uwo muri Nyabihu. Hari abantu bavuye i Huye? Aha, i Huye hari nasomye n'urutonde n'abantu bavuye i Burera. Hari umuntu wavuye i Burera? Umu-CEO w'i Burera ari wavuye i Burera. So najya mbereke yuko twagerageje gutumira projects z'urubyiruko kuva igihugu cyose. So umubare ndabona atari mwiza cyane, maybe we can increase the number next time. Ariko ikigaragara nuko tuzajya tugira umwanya uhagije wo kuganira. Ikindi kintu ngira ngo mbabwire urubyiruko nuko opportunity zijyanye no kugera kuri finance navuga ko zihari. Hari n'umujene wabajije ikijyanye na Startup Act. Ninde wabajije kuri Startup Act? Yes. Startup Act nayo igeze mu rwego rwa government. Yamaze kugera ku biro bya nyakwa Premier Ministre. Turimo kuyigaho kugira ngo ibe yatambuka. Irimo incentive nyinshi ku bantu bakora muri IT n'ibintu na projects zitandukanye. So nayo iri hafi kurangira ku buryo abantu bakoramo hariya babona incentives zijyanye na Startup Act. So najya ngo mbabwire ko twifuje gukora iyi nama nko kugerageza. Njye ubwanjye naje mu nama muri convention center yitwa Africa CEO Forum. Mbona ukuntu abantu baganira ubukungu, bagira connections, ndetse hariho n'aba investors baje kuinvestinga muri projet zabo. Ngira nubwo nifuza yuko urubyiruko rw'u Rwanda narwo rutangiye business, rukora exports, uri kuraninga ibitekerezo byabo, natwe twahura tukaganira. Tugize umugisha tubona umufatanyabikorwa Access to Finance Rwanda, akazi kanoze, Mastercard n'abandi bemera ko iki gikorwa twajya tugikora. Nagira ngo rero tugitangize kandi kizajya gihoraho, niba na ngombwa tuzanajye tugikora kenshi igihe cyose twabonye produit nshya yatuma urubyiruko rubona amafaranga. Kubera ko tugomba kujya kuri lunch, nanjye niyo yaje nihutira cyane ngo itancika. Nagira ngo ntabamarira umwanya munini, we will have another time. Merci, ntago ndibe gutwara akazi, don't worry. So nagira ngo mbashimire kandi ni excuse yuko tutabonetse umunsi wose. Next time tuzamarana igihe kandi mbifuriza amahirwe masa muri projects zanyu nkuko Access to Finance Rwanda ibabwiye yuko iri ready kubakira. Rwanda Revenue ikababwira yuko ni mujye mu ministeri tukagira ibyo tupropose izabikora. BDF ikayibahaye karibu. Nagira mbabwire ko muri ministeri yacu y'urubyiruko hahora hafunguye. Of course ushobora kunyandikira WhatsApp nkakurya sini rimwe kabiri ariko nyuma yaho wenda nkabwira advisor akagira icyo abikoraho. Ahubwo nagira mbabwire yuko mu by'ukuri nta mutima mubi. Ni ikibazo cya time hahora hafunguye ushobora kuza gahunda tukayiganiraho. Twe tujya inama ntidutanga amafaranga. Turakuganiriza tukakubwiraho ibintu bishoboka. Kandi bidashobotse none hari umuntu ujya kuri YouTube ujya uvuga ngo nejo byashoboka ngo niki. Njya ngo muramuzi. Umunsi
We thank you all for the time that you've given us. Thank you for being part of today's event.